The big orange cat glanced at Subai. Is there anything I need to pay attention to? Subai looked a little nervous. When you've caught your own time fish, you'll experience various unknown tribulations. Because jumping out of time control is originally a law-defying thing, you'll be rejected by the long river of time itself. If you're accidentally pulled into the long river, you'll completely turn into a time fish. In addition, there are many monsters lurking outside the river of time. They all feed on the time fishes. Once you've escaped the protection of the river of time, they'll rush up. The scariest things are the demons you've provoked. Although you've inherited some of the last luck of the Time Clan, you still have to be careful. The big orange cat was sitting on an ancient throne, looking condescendingly at Subai and the long river of time. I understand, thank you. Subai nodded. He released his pets and then used the contract book to activate starry omnivore Kraken's dark diving characteristic. It was a pity that starry omnivore Kraken had swallowed the Sea of Destruction, and he did not dare to release it right now. Otherwise, its consciousness would be annihilated and it would turn into a doomsday monster that only performed according to its chaotic will. However, Subai felt confident enough for the current battles, especially after Time Ghost had evolved into an immortal monster. Its strength had risen sharply. It was no longer the same as before. The long river of time was its home field. Abai, don't worry, we're by your side. The elf cheered on his shoulder. Subai nodded and looked at the river in the distance. In the middle of the long river, in the turbulent water, a small but very special golden fish was swimming forward with the surging water. The waters where this golden fish was located were more turbulent than in other places. This confirmed in a way how turbulent Subai's era was, where dangers and opportunities coexisted. The fate of mankind was also above a certain threshold. With a move of his mental power, a dark fishing rod appeared in front of Subai. He threw the rod into the river. The hook flew far away with the fishing line and landed precisely in front of the goldfish. As a veteran angler, Subai's whole set of actions was smooth and flowing. The rod landed neatly in one go, accurately landing where he wanted it to fall. This was a hook without the bait. With the effect of the future crystal, no other existence could be found except for the little goldfish that represented Subai himself. Hence, everything seemed very calm. The little golden fish sensed the hook and wandered around, suddenly biting on it. It's hooked. Everyone, pay attention. Subai beamed excitedly. He hurriedly used his mental power to raise the pole. However, he felt as if it was hanging on the bottom. No matter how much mental power he used, to the point of explosion, the tiny fish still could not be lifted up. Its weight was beyond his ability. Is it heavy? The big orange cat glanced at Subai. You have to use the power of your soul, otherwise you can't lift it up. It's just like how a person can't lift oneself up. Jumping out of time is not that simple. The next moment, Subai suddenly burst forth with the power of the soul of time. An inexplicable force of time was transmitted, and the goldfish flew out all of a sudden. It was directly raised on the surface of the water, flying towards him. At this time, there was a sudden movement on the originally grey and misty river surface. Black shadows came flying out of nowhere. As these monsters approached, he saw that each of them was the size of Blue Planet, and their body exuded an extremely majestic aura. Their hideousness revealed the ancient and vicissitudes of life. They were time monsters born to live in the space of the long river of time. It was born to have a nearly perfect grasp of the law of time. They did not need to practice, and their strengths would continue to increase over time. They were used to devour the lives controlled by time, devour those trying to escape from the long river. Legends said that ancient monsters born within this void had existed since the river was born. Such an existence could swallow a universe with one bite. Even the demons that have occupied the long river of time for a long time dare not provoke them. Hassi, Hassi. Seeing this, Time Ghost flew out immediately. It waved its little paws, directly activating its lights-off characteristic, plunging the surrounding areas into eternal darkness. It utilized the lights-off skill. After that, it activated its time cage skill. Suddenly, most of the monsters that rushed over were unable to move. They were completely locked in a fixed time cage. A gloomy and terrifying energy erupted from Time Ghost, forming a fan-shaped shockwave towards these monsters trying to hinder Subai's time fish. This was the nightmare skill. In a dark environment, there was an 80% probability that the opponent would fall into the nightmare. After falling into the nightmare, their souls would be devoured by Time Ghost and they would completely die. As this gloomy wave reverberated, 60% of the monsters suddenly stopped in place. After about a second, they all fell into the long river of time like dumplings from a pan. At this time, some other monsters had already approached the plain white time fish. They were greeted by a series of black sharp arrows. Accompanied by the black sword was the ruthless attack of the ancestor blood dragon. Countless crush claws that could cut through space attacked them, along with an earth-shattering roar. Little blood dragon's crush claw had been strengthened countless times by Subai, and its power had now reached an unprecedented level. It could tear apart a fabric of space one after another. Upon seeing that the time fish was about to escape, these monsters disregarded little blood dragon's crush claw and directly flew forward. However, what horrified Subai was that little blood dragon's terrifying attack only left a few white marks on their carapace. The attack failed to break their defenses. Immediately afterwards, the weakening dragon curse, the fixed body dragon curse, and the shadow-killing dragon curse were cast. After weakening the heart and immobilizing them, 10 shadows with 70% of their original body's attack power formed and started a slaughter roar. An ancient roar rang through the sky. The weakening effect seemed to have no effect. The fixed body effect had not reached 1% of a second before it was directly torn apart, and the shadows were sent flying with a single claw. Even Time Ghost, who just came forward, also could not stop it, and the 3 consummate skills it had used were all ruthlessly shattered. Even Time Ghost itself was slapped by a claw, directly shattering its body in a burst of energy capable of mass destruction. Fortunately, it was immortal and blessed by time. It recovered almost instantly. But it was too late. These terrifying monsters were already close to the time fish, and the attacks released by Little Tyrant, Mewling Fox, and Purple Jade were instantly destroyed without making a dent. Although they had endless potential, their level was a far cry from these monsters. This is an eternal monster, an ancient existence in the long river of time. Subai could not help but widen his eyes. The threat to him from these eternal existences was second only to the apocalyptic monsters like the Sea of Destruction. It seems that this was not the most terrifying monster in the long river of time. Those terrifying monsters who had fallen asleep did not even bother to participate in this level of movement. Subai was still contemplating if he should release Starry Omnivore Kraken as the monsters continued to approach. The former could solve everything after it devoured the Sea of Destruction. No monster could live through the endless Sea of Destruction after all. Even these eternal monsters were not an exception. It was originally an eternal monster. Now that it has escaped the control of time, something only a mythical pet tamer would do. Now he was not even a legendary pet tamer, so it was naturally extremely difficult to defeat them. Meow. Humble human, I still have to help you. At this time, the big orange cat spat disdainfully, and a disc full of technological sense appeared in its hands. As the disc radiated rays of light, a space-time vortex appeared around the time fish. Roar, don't even think about it. Seeing this, those monsters roared loudly and rushed over with the power of the infinite law. They wanted to shatter this space-time vortex to stop the time fish from escaping. Stupid, how can this be an ordinary space-time vortex? In front of the Lord of Eternal Wealth, everything is in vain. The big orange cat showed a trace of disdain. The disc in its hand was burning blazingly, and in the dumbfounded eyes of those powerful monsters, it collected Subai's time fish quickly. Roar. Now that the time fish had escaped, these monsters burst out with an unprecedented roar. It was at this time that the entire time and space where the long river of time was located suddenly burst into tremors. Countless grey mists surged, and Time Dragon cracked one gap after another. Chen Ruoxue looked at everything around her with some horror. Looking to the upper reaches of the long river of time, the original black and white water of the long river has now become pitch black. Gigantic corpses of monsters were floating on the long river. Their bodies were exuding broken, dead, chaotic, and strange horror. Seeing all this, Subai was a little confused. These monster corpses floating on the long river were terrifying monsters that were at least above the sovereign grade. Each of them had bodies as large as planets, and they were all beings that had evolved to the limits of their respective domains. Such existences were almost immortal. Even if the galaxy came to an end, they could still live forever. But now, they have become nothing but corpses. The sight of them was shocking to say the least. At the same time, some powerful monsters hidden in the long river of time exuded a terrifying aura similar to the bright sun. However, their panic was obvious amidst their bated breaths. They had obviously not expected this change. The big orange cat looked around before revealing a frightened and incredulous expression. Are these confusion camp demons crazy? Are they preparing to refine the entire river of time and turn it into a confusion monster? Crazy. The evil demons did this. Subai asked quickly, wasn't it said that they didn't get the complete luck from the Time Clan, and couldn't control the long river of time? Refining the whole river of time into confusion monsters was too incredulous. This long river of time existed at the beginning of the world and was the foundation of everything in the world. If it was refined into a monster, it would be impossible to imagine all the horrors that would happen upon its conception. Once the long river of time is refined, everything will be controlled to contribute to the monster that would be born in its wake. Only those that could jump out of the control of time would be spared. Such a monster could surely be powerful enough to compete with chaos. The big orange cat shook its head, then pointed to the sky and said, as for what you said, it's not absolute. The time you obtained is less than 1/10,000th of the total luck. As long as the price is paid, there is always a way. For example, black meteors appeared in the chaos clouds in the sky. This is a kind of big sacrifice technique launched by demons to sacrifice countless powerful demons, thus gaining all the luck and occupying the long river of time. Subai turned towards the sky and saw countless black meteors continuously sliding down among the chaos clouds. An inexplicable and powerful aura erupted, and the entire time seemed to be shaken. Then what should we do? Do you want to catch Ruoshua and the pets their own time fishes first? If the river of time is controlled, won't they be controlled too? Subai frowned. These demons were crazy enough, and he even admired them a little. Such a flashy method was truly worthy of awe. Their own time fishes should only be caught by themselves. It isn't good for them if we interfere, but you don't have to worry. Even if these demons can refine time, such a monumental task won't be completed overnight. We still have a lot of time. As long as we jump out of time control before the long river of time is refined, we should be okay. Now, I have here a few special time talismans refined by a top powerhouse in a certain era. Time fishes can be hidden properly using these talismans. As the big orange cat said, it took out 100 talismans with intricate patterns from a space-time vortex. The talismans exuded distinct archaic auras. It then unceremoniously threw the talismans on Subai's face. One talisman is for 10,000 nihility kois. It raised its head proudly. After that, it turned to the completely black long river of time and shook its head. We should go. A great war might happen here in a while. Some ancient powerful existences like the Chaos and the Creation Camp will probably come. They must be furious and angry to be schemed like this by the demons. They thought that the demons would wait until all the luck was taken before they would start everything, but they clearly didn't expect the demons to be so fierce and directly chose to give them a pleasant surprise through this sacrifice. Subai glanced at the long river of time again. From those chaotic grey mists, he could faintly feel a few terrifying auras that were clearly on the offensive thanks to how erratic they were. This sign was enough for Subai to conclude that the terrifying auras must belong to some of the most powerful existences in this endless void. The auras made him feel suffocated. A battle of such magnitude was not something he could dabble on. Time Ghost, let's go. Subai nodded. Hassi. A wave of time radiated from Time Ghost's body, leading Subai and his party to away from the long river of time. When he returned to Sky Fortune Waterfall, Subai gave the talismans given by the big orange cat to each of his pets, then to Chen Ruoshua and her pets. Hurry up and improve your strength. You have the luck of the Time Clan and the soul of time, so you've been recognized by the Long River. If you can participate in this war, you can get unimaginable benefits, but unfortunately, you're still too weak. The big orange cat glanced at Subai disdainfully, then it hurled the latter's time fish to him. Don't merge with this time fish for now. The demons must have done something to it. What they've done isn't easy to remove, but my barrier can isolate everything, so rest assured. Thank you. Subai took his own time fish and put it in the contract book. With this thing, it meant that he had escaped the control of time. As long as he escaped the control of space, he could instantly become a legendary or a mythical pet tamer. He would become Blue Planet's first creature to transcend time and space. Looking at the big orange cat, he opened his contract book with his mind and released a new page of the contract. He also released 5 million nihility coins swaying in the sky. At this time, it's useless to say more. If you're willing to sign a contract with me, we'll be partners, and these nihility coins will naturally be yours. Later I can catch more for you. I have a gymnasium under my hand, with hundreds of thousands of disciples. I can ask them to catch all the nihility coins for you. But if you're unwilling, then forget it. I'll give these nihility coins to you, you just need to help us leave the Sky Fortune waterfall. Subai took a deep breath and looked at the big orange cat. In the face of this kind of existence, there was no way to force it, and he could only see whether it was willing or not. The big orange cat glanced at Subai. Then it looked at the pet next to him, then looked at Chen Ruoxue. A moment of silence ensued, but it still opened its mouth to swallow the contract light ball. After that, a golden gleaming big orange cat pattern appeared on Subai's contract book along with a string of ancient characters, the collector of wandering treasure. Although he could not recognize these characters, he could understand its meaning at first glance. Ha ha ha, we're partners then. Seeing that the big orange cat had chosen to sign the contract, Subai could not help laughing. He walked over and stretched out his hand to hug the haughty big orange cat. Its fur bristled and it took a big step as it looked at Subai vigilantly. It was dissatisfied, very dissatisfied with his sudden approach. After all, it was a special existence. An existence that nothing in this endless void and the endless universe wouldn't vie for. Considering this, it was understandable that it had its guard against Subai. Despite having signed a contract with the latter, it simply wasn't that strong attack power-wise, so it couldn't help but feel insecure and vigilant. Although we've successfully signed the contract between the two of us, I can cancel the contract any time. Don't be too cocky and overjoyed now, it said disdainfully. Ha ha ha, I know I was being too hasty just now, there won't be a next time. Subai laughed and did not care much about the threat of the big orange cat. His contract book not only had the law of fate, but also contained the mermaid recorder of all things, so it was not that easy to cancel the contract that both of them were connected to. Of course, he understood at first glance that the big orange cat was just being insecure. It's good that you understand. I'm superior, and my dignity is inviolable. The big orange cat raised its head and then licked its mouth unconsciously. Now you can give me these nihility coins. While talking, it took out a crystal ball and very consciously collected all the nihility coins. Purple Jade, Little Blood Dragon, and the others saw that Subai was talking so lowly to the newcomer, and they all felt upset. They glared at the big orange and scrutinized it with slight anger in their eyes, deciding to find a time to teach it a lesson. This guy must know who was the boss in the family. After the big orange cat gobbled up the nihility coins, it discovered the unkind gazes of Little Tyrant and Purple Jade. It rolled its big green eyes, slowly walked up to them, and said, "From today onwards, we're partners. As the richest beings in the endless void, I hope to get along with everyone in harmony." As it talked, a small spacetime vortex was formed in front of it. It raised its paws and touched Purple Jade first, and then the spacetime vortex. It continuously took out various kinds of jade and gave these good things to them. This is the fruit of fate, the blue sky crystal, the water of heaven and earth, all of these are for you guys. These things should enable you to quickly become an immortal existence and completely master the power of destiny. These are 1000 solar star cores, 300 kinds of the essence of fire, and 40 kinds of earth stones. Little Tyrant, these are all for you. These are the best treasures amidst every heaven and myriad realms. This phantom crystal stone, the real eye, the dark heart, and the angel flower. These are all for you, mewling fox. Let us get along well in the future. Little blood dragon sister, these are the bones of the cursed first dragon, the crystal nucleus of the dragon bloodseeker, the blood core of the 10,000 realms, and the space seed. Time Ghost, Planet I, you guys have your share too. The big orange cat patted the pets and then grabbed many treasures from the spacetime vortex. Coincidentally, these treasures were all materials that these bunch of pets needed. Each and every treasure that he presented was something that could only be sought, but not bought. Among them were treasures that could not be conceived in one world. They were super treasures that would most likely trigger a war once they appeared in the endless void. But in the eyes of the big orange cat, they were like freebies for it to throw out. Big orange cat, you're really a good partner, I'll protect you in the future. Purple Jade nodded solemnly. Roar. With me little tyrant around, no one can threaten you. For a while, Purple Jade and the other pets looked at the treasures piled up in front of them and made such promises involuntarily. They seemed to be close friends with the big orange cat as if nothing had happened just now. Seeing this, the big orange cat glanced disdainfully at Subai, as if to say, this is the most powerful ability in the endless void. Subai, he wanted to refute, but after looking at the mountain of treasures, he also chose to bow down to the copper smell of money. As long as there was money and treasures, everything else was easy to talk about. It was worthy of being the collector of wandering treasures. With its terrifying ability, it was no wonder that every existence in the endless void coveted it to the point that it could only hide in the sky fortune waterfall that could obscure the breath of fate. It didn't dare to go out of the sky fortune waterfall at all. Keep things first, don't eat them randomly for now. Subai exhorted, then turned to look at the big orange cat. Once we leave, what should I pay attention to? Will you be found out? Probably not. I can help you hide now that I've signed a contract with you. But to be safe, I'll stay in the contract book for a while and use some special methods to cover you up. The big orange cat shook its head. By the way, where are you going? Big orange cat asked again. I'm not sure about this yet. I'm going to continue walking around in Kunlun ruins to see if I can find relevant information about the infinite shuttle dragon token. Subai nodded. I suggest that you don't look for it anymore. Let's go directly to the ruins of chaos. The big orange cat knelt down and looked at Subai. Subai wondered, why go to the ruins of chaos? I can help you resolve the hatred of chaos, and at the same time liberate starry omnivore Kraken, who has swallowed the sea of destruction. The will of chaos is far beyond your imagination. You can't offend it, even some powerful existence that has existed for countless epochs isn't willing to offend it. Now that the long river of time has a problem, the will of chaos has been attracted. It's one of the best opportunities. It shrugged indifferently. I see, then you can go ahead. We'll get ready. Subai nodded. If there was a way to relieve the hostility of chaos, he was naturally willing, and other things could be set aside first. The big orange cat nodded and took out a few more treasures. Except for one for starry omnivore Kraken to regain consciousness, it used the other treasures to conceal itself. Looking at these hidden treasures that were absolutely rare in the endless void, Subai could not help but feel that it was such a pity that these treasures were being used like this. The big orange cat glanced at Subai disdainfully. What a country bumpkin. Subai, by the way, what about the guys who got in before? He asked again. Temph, I'll lose if even one of them goes out alive. Do they really think that the Sky Fortune waterfall is a playground? The big orange cat showed a trace of disdain. This Sky Fortune waterfall was a very magical place. The end of each era had something to do with this place. The great horror and danger contained in the noon of the day was far from what ordinary people could imagine. Those guys who wanted to come in and catch it were simply seeking death. Okay, let's go. Subai nodded and jumped onto Planet I. Just when the big orange cat gave Planet I hundreds of different special metal cores for it to completely digest and merge with, it broke through to the sovereign grade to the upper limit. The pets nodded and climbed onto Planet I. The big orange cat threw a special token, and Planet I turned into a special streamer to fly out. Meow. There are so many stupid guys hiding outside the Sky Fortune waterfall. Big Orange Cat took out its amethyst crystal ball and meowed disdainfully. Raw. They're indeed stupid. Why don't we go and kill them all? Little Tyrant looked at the crystal ball and waved its paw. You're busted. Through his amethyst crystal ball, Subai noticed that there were more than 30 different forces hidden outside, all of which seemed to be plotting against the Big Orange Cat. It was just that they did not even know that the Big Orange Cat had already been taken away by him. Let's leave quietly. Subai glanced at Little Tyrant. With your ability, you're sending yourself to your own death if you go. If you have time to court death, please work harder instead. It glared angrily at Subai. How could he just trample on its dignity? It could probably fight with hundreds of other purgatory tyrants of the same age. It was just that Purple Jade and the others grew too fast. It definitely wasn't because it was too slow. There was no love between them anymore. This owner was simply hopeless when it comes to interpersonal relationship. Subai did not care about the drama unfolding within Little Tyrant's head. If he did not stimulate it, this guy would not know how to work hard. He had no ambitions at all except eating and sleeping. Even though it had worked hard in the beginning, its progress seemed to have plateaued. According to Subai's instructions, Planet Eye quickly flew away from the Kunlun ruins through a gap and then turned on electromagnetic transmission to teleport in the direction of the ruins of chaos. The Big Orange Cat looked back at Kunlun ruins, feeling a little emotional. It no longer remembered how many have passed since it took it as its hiding place. When it remembered that even though it was the wealthiest existence in the Endless Voice, but it was still forced to hide there for so many years, a sense of grievance rushed into its heart. Meow tilde, it took out 2 nihility kois to comfort its young soul. Do you know why these monsters are attacking Kunlun ruins day after day? Big Orange Cat asked while eating the fish. Why? Subai shook his head. In fact, it's impossible for them to destroy this Kunlun ruins. You must know that countless epochs have shattered, the world has changed drastically, and when the worlds withered, Kunlun ruins remained motionless amidst these changes. These monsters actually want to enter Kunlun ruins to escape while conveniently using the primitive aura inside to practice. These dead monsters all laid the foundation. When the number of deaths met the requirement, the existence behind them would be able to launch some kind of sacrificial art, so that they could receive unprecedented benefits. The Big Orange Cat said with disdain, but even so, it's difficult for them to gain the approval of the will in Kunlun ruins. But since I am such a special existence, the Kunlun ruins will protect me. Ha ha ha. Subai glanced at it tooting its own horns. How could you possibly comprehend being the greatest master of wealth? Big Orange Cat said disdainfully. By the way, do you want me to give you a name? Subai changed the subject. Big Orange Cat, no, please call me the Great Lord of Wealth. Subai, while chatting, Planet Eye had arrived at the ruins of chaos. Shall we go in directly? Subai asked. He felt that the aura here was a little different from when he came here before, but he did not pay much attention to it. The long river of time had changed dramatically, and changes were bound to happen somewhere else in the ruins of chaos. By the way, how are you going to help me remove the hatred of chaos? Subai asked curiously. With infinite wealth, of course. There's nothing that money can't solve. Big Orange Cat said proudly. All right then, I'll count on you. Subai felt like it was useless to ask it. After a short while, they came to the area where the Sea of Destruction was originally located. The Sea of Destruction that was originally boundless had disappeared, and what was in its place was a continuously rotating water ball with a diameter of fewer than 100 meters. Despite relying on the treasure given by the Big Orange Cat to conceal the aura of his group, Subai still felt a deep malice advancing, which was the hatred of chaos. Big Orange Cat glanced at the little Sea of Destruction, and could not help but roll its eyes. This guy looked so weak, but he was actually strong enough to swallow the Sea of Destruction. This was one of the catastrophes that chaos often used to destroy the world, and the omnipresent flood was sent out from here. After eating half of the fish, the Big Orange Cat took out a special rune with chaos runes from its body and handed it to Subai. Drop a bead of your blood, and then with a pious heart, admit your mistakes to the will of chaos. Show that you're willing to repair the Sea of Destruction. Originally, The hatred of the great chaos will is almost impossible to remove, unless death returns to the embrace of chaos. However, I have this chaos talisman, which can lead to forgiveness, as long as you haven't been marked by chaos as a mortal enemy. In addition, you still have the breath of the mermaid recorder of all things, and it should be easy to be forgiven. After all, these destruction monsters are just a sequence created by chaos, and they haven't been destroyed either. You've also been killed by the Sea of Destruction when released. There's a casual relationship here, and the will of chaos will need to follow this. Otherwise, it's impossible for you to escape the pursuit of the will of chaos. Thank you. Nodding, Subai took the talisman and followed the instructions of Big Orange Cat carefully. In fact, he did not want to provoke the will of chaos. Chaos was the root of everything, and there was no way for him to live if he provoked it. But at that time, the Sea of Destruction had destroyed him first, so he could not help but fight back. After the prayer was completed, the chaotic talisman turned into a streamer and flew into the void's heart before disappearing. After a while, Subai felt that the chaos in the underworld had already weakened its aversion to him. Okay, you can go out now. Everything will be fine once we restore this Sea of Destruction. Big Orange Cat nodded. Okay. Subai nodded, revoked all concealment methods, and appeared in the void. He felt that there was a will watching him in the dark, and it seemed that if the Sea of Destruction was not repaired, the consequences would be very serious. The Sea of Destruction is actually a kind of doomsday disaster. It's a special disaster where the will of chaos appears when a world dies. The purpose is to reclaim power and eliminate some things that shouldn't exist. Since you've ruined the Sea of Destruction and prevented the flood from coming, you've naturally been targeted by chaos. However, this is just a piece of cake for me, as the greatest owner of wealth in the endless void. As the Big Orange Cat said, it took out storage rings one by one. These storage rings were about the size of a world, and they were filled with various treasures. See, this is the power of wealth. The Big Orange Cat held up its paws and threw the storage rings containing the treasures into the Sea of Destruction. It absorbed the origin of these treasures, and the small Sea of Destruction began to expand wildly. In a blink of an eye, its diameter had reached several hundred kilometers. Subai and Chen Ruoshua looked at each other and could not help but spread their hands in defeat. Only those that were legendary rich and willful could possibly do such a thing. For a moment, Subai did not know what to do. He decided to take a look at the Big Orange Cat's specific data. He had not seen its data in detail just yet. Name: race, collector of wandering treasures. Monster, gender, male, level, none, attribute, none, special characteristic. Passive, collector of wandering treasures, active characteristic. It can open a special space-time vortex and touch all ownerless treasures in the endless void. Eternal life. The light from Providence is gathered in the endless void, giving birth to an unlimited lifespan. Body of treasure light. It can ignore any danger in the world and enter all kinds of forbidden places freely. Skills: none, restrained, none, weakness. Other than its endless wealth, its strength is only the size of an ordinary orange cat. Any servant-level monster can kill it. Evolution direction: none. Introduction: the most terrifying lord of wealth in the endless void. It has endless wealth that countless creatures envy. There is no existence that doesn't want to obtain it. In the past, it had crossed paths with many children of epochs and helped them grow. Subai was the only existence who had signed a companion contract with it. This represents a change in itself. It loves to eat fish and birds. Fishes can make it happy. Looking at the Big Orange Cat's detailed data, Subai could not help but feel a little emotional. At the same time, he understood many things. What shocked him more was that this fellow was actually immortal and had experienced countless eras. Moreover, it was an existence that had inherited the karmic luck of the endless void. No wonder it knew so much. However, he was a little overwhelmed by the fact that he was the first person to contract such an existence in countless years. Actually, he could not understand this either. Was it just because it was too honest? He did not think so. There was probably a deeper reason. Perhaps it had something to do with the mermaid recorder of all things. Subai, Let starry omnivore kraken release some blood. You should also release some blood and infuse a bit of mental power into it. This way, the Sea of Destruction will have an imprint with you. To a certain extent, you will become equivalent to the Sea of Destruction's consciousness. In this way, not only will you be able to summon the Sea of Destruction, but you will also be able to work for the will of chaos when it is mobilized. You will obtain many benefits from this. The big orange cat turned its head and looked at Subai. I can do that. Doesn't that mean that I'll be joining the Chaos faction? Subai was surprised. How much blood is required? Chaos was the beginning of everything and the end of everything. It was the fate of time and space. Everything in the world was born from it. It was the beginning of all things and the foundation of the world. It was the most powerful existence, and there was no other. Me. That's a given, of course. However, I was the only one who could do this in the endless void. No other existence could do it other than me. You might now know it, but many existences dream of having an identity. Low-entropy entities with autonomous minds can only die if they want to enter the arms of chaos, but I have a way to let you join the Chaos faction alive and even become the spokesperson of chaos, not to mention other benefits. Just the fact that I was able to achieve eternal life was enough to attract the jealousy of countless existences out there. There were many existences in the endless void that had obtained eternal life, but they all had suffered tribulations. Every time their lifespans in the endless void reached the end and everything was destroyed, those eternal existences always suffered from all sorts of tribulations. Then, when everything became chaotic, they would be suppressed and deprived by chaos. Many existences often die during this phase, but if you become the spokesperson of chaos, you won't suffer any tribulation that comes from chaos. Don't you think this benefit alone is huge? The big orange cat glanced at Subai proudly and raised its head. As for how much blood, the more the better. Give me a basinful first. Subai, Sigma, Chen Ruoshue, although she could not understand, she was shocked. Come, cute orange cat, eat a fish. Subai handed it a fish. Hurry up and bleed. The big orange cat's tail curled up into the sky. All right. Subai quickly nodded. Although a basin of blood was a little scary on paper, it was not a problem for him with his current physical fitness. Not long after, a basin of bright red blood was released. Other than his face turning slightly pale, he suffered no other setback. Similarly, he also extracted 100 tons of blood essence from starry omnivore kraken, who was still sleeping in the contract book. To its body, which was as huge as Blue Planet, 100 tons of blood essence was nothing. Very good, there's enough blood. The big orange cat nodded and took out a special grey crystal from somewhere on its body, before throwing it into the blood. Soon, Subai and the blood of starry omnivore kraken were all absorbed. The grey crystal turned into a special blood-colored rune and it materialized in the void. Follow the will in your mind and rise. Say that you're willing to return to the embrace of chaos and are willing to follow the will of chaos to fight for chaos. The big orange cat looked at Subai. Subai looked at the big orange cat and nodded. He condensed his mental power and made an oath. As his experiment was completed, this special rune turned into its soul form and entered the distant chaos sea. Then, he felt a special force blessing him. Soon, he sensed an aura that was very similar to his from the Sea of Destruction. All right, everything is complete. I can continue to grow in the Sea of Destruction. The big orange cat nodded and raised its paw to throw a large number of various treasures into the Sea of Destruction for it to continue growing. At the same time, a special mental voice transmission sounded in Subai's mind. This is an extremely special method. It's a method that allows one to use the crystal stone born from a peerless green lotus seed that bloomed in chaos. Only a few of them are left in this endless void. You can use that to obtain the acknowledgement of chaos, and you won't lose your consciousness by then, but you still have to make sure not to do things that will disgust chaos too much. Otherwise, there might be problems. I understand. Subai nodded. The Sea of Destruction recovered very quickly and returned to its original size in the blink of an eye. However, the big orange cat did not stop. It only stopped when the Sea of Destruction reached a size larger than the entire solar system. The larger the Sea of Destruction, the greater the protection we will receive from chaos. The big orange cat said proudly. Subai and Chen Ruoxue did not know what to say. Was this the power of the Lord of Wealth? It was indeed terrifying to behold. Subai raised her head and looked into the depths of the ruins of chaos. The ice-blue planet that was related to the mermaid recorder of all things was still floating quietly in the depths of the ruins of chaos. He had not been able to go anywhere before, but he should be able to do so by now. After all, he was now Chaos's underling. He should not attract the ire of these terrifying apocalyptic monsters. At this moment, an endless golden waterfall of light suddenly descended on the ruins of chaos. This time, the current of the golden waterfall was countless times faster than before. In the blink of an eye, it had already enveloped the entire ruins. How did this happen? Subai looked at all of this in confusion. Bai, it looks like we're already trapped here. I wanted to communicate with the heretical god Origin Space just now, but I discovered that the aura of space had disappeared. It looks like chaos has blocked out everything, Little Blood Dragon said. That's right. We seem to be trapped here. Purple Jade nodded. However, from the trajectory of fate, there's no bad luck. Instead, all our luck is faintly rising. This means that it's a good thing for us. Purple Jade nodded. The big orange cat took out a crystal ball and inspected it. Finally, it shook its head. It seems like the upheavals in the outside world have made the will of chaos feel some kind of danger. It has decided to increase the strength of these doomsday monsters. Therefore, it has sealed this place. We might not be able to leave for the time being, but I think this is pretty good. Let's take advantage of this period of time to increase our overall strength. Chaos wants to increase the strength of these doomsday monsters. When the time comes, countless nomological great Taos will be revealed. It will be a huge opportunity. Hearing this, Subai could not help but frown. Can you calculate when this place will be locked down? I have no problem with that, but the situation on Blue Planet might not be good. I still have many family and friends. That's right. The situation on Blue Planet is too tense right now. If we go back late, it might disappear. Yes. Chen Ruoxue agreed. Nowadays, escapism was prevalent on Blue Planet. Who knew when the government and the Alliance would run away under the pressure? This was very likely to happen. All the previous monster invasions had been child's play because the news of the 4 pets of creation had yet to appear. Once the keepsake of the 4 pets was born, those true experts would swarm over. With the current strength of humans, it was impossible for them to resist. Not to mention the 2 traitorous organizations, Sirius and Saint Star. Once they encountered a powerhouse, they would be the greatest guides. They might not even blink when betraying humans. However, with their current strength, there was indeed nothing they could do about this situation. I can't predict that either, but it shouldn't take long. After all, the situation at the Long River of Time is critical. Chaos will definitely be involved. The big orange cat shook its head. After trying all sorts of methods to confirm that they could not leave, Subai and Chen Ruoxue finally gave up and decided to settle down here first and raise the strength of their pets. Perhaps there would be a special way to get out. Coincidentally, Planet I doesn't lack anything. Let Time Ghost increase the flow of time here by a few thousand times. The power of Time Ghost will never run dry after all that we have done. We don't have to worry about replenishing its strength anymore. Since they could not leave, Subai's mood changed for the better. The pets nodded as well, feeling a sense of urgency. It was indeed time for them to increase their strengths. Otherwise, they would not be able to participate in slightly stronger battles, and could only rely on Time Ghost and Little Blood Dragon. After continuous experiments, the time acceleration of Time Ghost was finally confirmed to be 5,000 times faster. If a day passed in the outside world, 5,000 days would pass in Planet I. A 5,000-fold acceleration of time was just enough to allow Time Ghost to take care of its own cultivation without stopping the acceleration of time. Subai had made up his mind. He wanted to completely improve his strength this time. Now that he had Big Orange Cat and Time Ghost, it could be said that he was all prepared to increase his cultivation. Time passed by slowly. Only slightly more than 3 months passed in the outside world, But Subai, Chen Ruoxue, and their pets had already lived on planet I for almost 1,300 years. The civilization in China had only been 5,000 years. 1,300 was a mind-boggling concept to both of them and their pets. As time passed, Subai went from being frustrated, depressed, and even crazy to finally calming down and beginning to understand the meaning of time. He had read all the books no less than 100 times and studied every human technology in existence countless times. Even Chen Ruoxue, who was his girlfriend with 1,000 changes, had already used up all her changes and postures. She had done all the crazy things that the two of them had never done before. As time slowly passed, although their faces were not old, they carried the vicissitudes of time. They truly understood certain things and were truly able to adapt to the life of a long-lived species. Apart from the two of them, the pets had also undergone tremendous changes. Over the past 1,000 years, as Planet I drifted in the ruins of chaos and the big orange cat was fed with almost unlimited resources, all the pets had reached the peak immortal grade. After leaving this place, they would then be able to escape the restraints of time and become an eternal existence. Purple Jade had grasped the law of fate at the initial stage and was not far from the life goddess, her final form. Little Tyrant had completely completed all of its evolution phases and reached the peak of the Purgatory Tyrant. It had become a sun devourer that could even devour the sun. Furthermore, its fire laws had reached the large success stage. A single spark from it could burn an entire world. Mewling Fox had completely melted the demon spirit crystal and reached the form of the dark paragon nine-tailed magic fox. Its other illusory form had also directly evolved into the final form of the 10,000 Thought Fox King. Now, it could freely display all the power of the two forms even without changing forms. The only thing it could not do was completely merge the two forms into one. Comparatively speaking, Little Blood Dragon had the smallest change. It was still the ancestor Blood Dragon, but it had reached the peak of the immortal grade. Moreover, it had fused with the bones of the cursed first dragon and refined its origin. Not only did it now have more than 10,000 kinds of dragon curses, but it could also create dragon curses on its own. Apart from that, it had also fused with the crystal nucleus of the destructive demon dragon. All its powers carried the power of a curse and the characteristic of destruction. Time Ghost did not change much. It had only leveled up to the peak immortal realm. After fusing with the origins of Time Dragon, it had become incomparably powerful. Even the big orange cat could not find any better treasures for it. Planet I had also changed drastically. It had now fully grown into a planet, and its true size became 3 times larger than Blue Planet. Blue sky, white clouds, rivers, and lakes were born on it, as well as all kinds of creatures that Subai had nurtured using the genetic data in his database. After evolving to the immortal grade, Planet I had completed its greatest transformation. It was now a living planet filled with life that possessed very strong combat power. Naturally, Subai became the owner of the planet. Starry Omnivore Kraken had also awakened and completely merged with the Sea of Destruction. Its current combat power was extremely terrifying. It had already reached the size of Saturn and far exceeded Planet I and Little Tyrant, who had evolved to their final route. Currently, its strongest skill was Water Splash. A water splash could summon the Sea of Destruction that it had fused into its body. When the endless Sea of Destruction descended from the sky, not to mention tens of thousands of miles of mountains and rivers, even a galaxy would drown beneath it. However, it still had not completed its final evolution. After checking, the reason was that the world it devoured was simply not enough to fully support it in its final evolution. This made Subai speechless. Now, the only ones in Subai's possession that had yet to reach the peak immortal grade were Ice Phoenix, who had run away from home, and the big orange cat who could not increase its strength. The reason why he was called a quasi-mythical royal pet tamer and not a half-step mythical pet tamer was that the two concepts were completely different from each other. A half-step mythical pet tamer meant that his pets had reached the immortal grade. The level of his contract book had not reached the 8th rank and was still at the 7th rank. At the same time, the pet tamer has not escaped the control of time. On the other hand, a quasi-mythical meant that the pet tamer had already escaped the constraints of time. His contract had also reached the law level from the legendary stage. The only requirement he still wasn't able to comply with was that not all of his pets were at the immortal grade. One had to know that a pet tamer's breakthrough was much harder than a pet's breakthrough. Subai's current situation, however, almost meant that he would definitely become a mythical pet tamer. They only had to come out of the ruins of chaos, and their pets would soon break through to the immortal grade. They would become the terrifying realm where everything in the world would fail and collapse before they could exist on their own. Their strength would be completely converted to origin power, and the blood in their bodies would all be immortal Tao blood. The immortal divine light would fuse into every cell in their bodies, making them truly immortal. The immortal grade already had no weaknesses. As long as the Tao seed was not destroyed, they could recover quickly even if their physical bodies were instantly destroyed. The eternal grade was even more terrifying. At this grade, the Tao seed would have already grown into a great Tao tree that would have already been integrated into the pet's body. Its origin power would have also become a special great Tao origin power that was ensconced in the void. As long as the tiniest bit of origin power existed, it could instantly recover from any degree of injury. If one wanted to slay such an existence, they had to completely eliminate it and destroy anything that contained its origin power mark. When that time arrived, the terror and the true might of a pet tamer would be truly unveiled. This was because even though a pet tamer wouldn't cultivate the great Tao themselves, they could share the great Tao with their pets. As long as one of their pets lived in this world, the pet tamer would never be ephemeral. No matter what power was used to destroy the pet tamer, as long as one of his pets was still alive, he would never die. In the early stages, the pet tamer was weak, but they would then receive the most terrifying advantage in the later stages. Similarly, due to the existence of the contract book, every pet had the most essential soul mark. Thus, to kill a mythical pet tamer's pet, one had to kill the pet tamer first. And to kill a pet tamer, all of his pets had to be killed first. To kill his pets, the pet tamer must be killed first. It was an almost endless cycle. Unless a terrifying existence instantly obliterated all traces of a mythical pet tamer and his pets, it was impossible to kill either side. Subai's current state was even more terrifying than being immortal and eternal. He was a real mature pet tamer. As long as his pets broke through to the immortal grade, he could truly dominate the entire endless void. The reason he could become a quasi-mythical pet tamer was that his pets had collectively broken through to the immortal realm. This allowed him to escape the restrictions of space. Then, he used the will of chaos to use the chaos force to completely eliminate the evil within his time fish. After fusing with the time fish, he had become an independent existence that could escape the great Tao of heaven and earth. In the past 1,000 years, Chen Ruoxue had undergone quite a lot of changes. With the help of the big orange cat's almost unlimited resources, her pets had already reached the immortal grade. The ice dragon, winter ice white dragon, and black flame dragon had completely grown up. When they settled down, they were the size of Blue Planet. They were existences at the peak of the immortal grade. However, her initial big demon and thousand-face fox had only reached the immortal grade. The limit of these two pets' potential could only reach the sovereign grade. They might not even reach the sovereign grade. Even with Subai and the big orange cat's help, reaching the immortal grade was already their limit. As for the other pets, they did not perform well either. The light attribute six-winged white horse had only reached the middle-level immortal grade. Chen Ruoxue had also become a legendary pet tamer. Her true combat power should have already surpassed the number 1 human expert, Du Qiankuan. The black and white dragons had fused with part of the ice attribute origin dragon, the frost dragon, and the fire attribute origin dragon's bones. Their strength far exceeded that of ordinary peak immortal existences. With their combined strength, ordinary immortal monsters could not withstand them. Time passes so quickly. In the blink of an eye, 1,000 years have passed. I actually became a legendary pet tamer too. In the past, I found it hard to even imagine standing at this realm. Chen Ruoxue carried the big orange cat and sat in a courtyard by the cliff. She looked at the scenery below. Actually, only 3 months have passed in the outside world. When we go back, Yang Ju and the others are still the same. Subai took a sip of tea and shook his head with a smile. They were at the highest peak of the entire planet I. It was extremely steep and had been specially built by Subai. Living here, they could see the scenery of the entire planet below. This place was more than 30,000 meters above sea level. It should have been covered in snow and would not melt for 10,000 years. However, under the endless power of Planet I, the environment was forcibly changed, making the entire mountain experience 4 seasons, including spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Haha, that's true, but those memories are too long ago for us. It's so long ago that I can't even remember what they looked like anymore. Chen Ruoxue smiled. Meow, this is all thanks to the great Lord of Wealth. The big orange cat tugged at the dried fish and shouted. It jumped onto the table. It looks like the ruins of chaos is about to open. Let's prepare to leave as well. Indeed, now that we're strong enough, it's time for us to leave. We'll head to the ice blue planet guided by the mermaid recorder of all things. Then, we'll wait for the ruins of chaos to open for us to return to Blue Planet. Subai also stood up and sent a mental message to his pets, indicating that they should return to his side. Subai had been to the ice blue planet pointed out by the mermaid recorder of all things many times, but he had never been able to enter. He remembered that it was because his strength was simply unqualified and lacking. Back then, he wasn't able to satisfy the requirement. But now, he should be strong enough. Hassi. Time Ghost appeared high in the sky and flew back, licking Subai's face passionately as usual. Haha, you can stop the time acceleration now. It has been hard on you for the past 1,000 years. Subai smiled and rubbed Time Ghost's head. Are we going out? Time Ghost asked as it deactivated time acceleration. After accelerating time for more than 1,000 years, its understanding and use of time had already reached an unprecedented level. Yes, we should be able to go out now. Subai nodded and stretched. Not long after, Purple Jade, Little Tyrant, Little Blood Dragon, and Mewling Fox all ran back. Roar, are we going back? Please let me show off my strength this time. I can now swallow a sun in one bite. Little Tyrant asked excitedly. Subai, bye. Of course, all grudges will be settled. None of them can escape. Subai nodded solemnly. Although 1,000 years had passed, there were some things that he had never forgotten. Be it the traitors who had killed his master, the giant Kraken gymnasium that had destroyed his home and kidnapped his parents, or the Sirius star formed by the families who had defected. He had everything memorized and calculated. Little Blood Dragon returned and transformed into a blood-colored dragon-shaped bracelet that wrapped around Subai's wrist. Purple Jade, Mewling Fox, and the other pets also gathered around Subai. 1,000 years had left almost no traces on their bodies. Other than the drastic change in their strength, there were not many changes in them on any other aspects. Planet I, let's go to that ice blue planet. Subai nodded. All right. Planet I's ethereal voice sounded in Subai's mind. A translucent projection screen appeared in front. Electromagnetic teleportation has been activated. The destination coordinates have been determined. The estimated time to arrival is 1 minute and 30 seconds. Teleportation begins. The superior immortal Planet I could already control its power completely without wasting a single bit. It did not exude the golden special effect like before. From the outside, it looked like it had suddenly disappeared into thin air. There was not even the slightest movement inside the planet. Name race, Planet I monster, gender, none, level, high-level immortal, attribute, lightning, metal, earth, water, wind, fire, special feature passive, electromagnetic teleportation, it can be teleported along electromagnetic waves. Even if the electromagnetic waves cannot reach it, it can change its own characteristics and forcibly teleport there. Instantaneous transmission, the electromagnetic satellites or electromagnetic devices connected to it can transmit messages instantly. Deformation, it can change into any shape, but the shape is still metal, this cannot be changed. Planet control, the nuclear characteristics of the planet. This is a nuclear fusion variant of a planet with advanced intelligence. It can grow into a living planet, or it can be integrated with other planets to control the planet. Metal fusion, the nuclear property of the planet. It can obtain the properties of the metal by fusing with it. Infinite split, additional characteristic. Planet I has swallowed almost all the special metals in existence. It can be split into countless intelligent clones. These clones can have all the abilities of the main body. Immunity to spirit energy attacks by 100%, and immunity to great Tao origin power by 50%. Metal immunity, active characteristic. Planet I has almost integrated and devoured all kinds of metals, completing the accumulation of the great Tao. No metal attack can harm it. Infinite war, combining all the metals in the endless void and obtaining all the technological achievements of the ancient technological era, one could create all kinds of metals or non-metal life forms indefinitely. It would be limitless and have almost unlimited war potential. The ancestor of all gold, as long as it once had the characteristics of a metal fused with planet I, it can have them all. The star of life, understanding the manufacturing process of life, the entire planet can absorb various substances at any time and transform them into a life planet. Skills, powerful geomagnetic storm, plasma cannon, metal break, electric shock, magnetic field control. Restraint, metal life, weakness, poison of metal corruption that exceeds the eternal grade, as well as some special great Tao attacks. Introduction. This is a rare and unique metal life that has undergone multiple fusions. With the help of the Lord of Wealth, it has not only obtained the technological legacy of a technological civilization that had ruled an ancient great cosmos, but it has also fused with all kinds of metals. It possesses unlimited potential and is one of the most powerful bases in the endless void. This was the data of the current planet I. Not only had its previous characteristics been enhanced, but it had also obtained a few unprecedented characteristics. Each of these characteristics was extremely rare. Even in the entire endless void and countless universes, there might not be a single similar existence. However, the most terrifying thing was the ancient technology legacy that the big orange cat had given it. It was the legacy of a civilization that had ruled several great cosmoses and was countless times more powerful than Blue Planet's technology. Antimatter cannons and two-way foil were very simple technological achievements for this civilization. Although these two-way foil, antimatter cannons, and black hole cages were not very effective against monsters above the immortal grade, especially the eternal grade. They could not be killed directly. There were even more terrifying life research techniques and causal weapons. Even an eternal grade monster could not withstand these things. There was nothing that could not be overcome at the end of technology. However, due to the limitations of Planet I, it had yet to fully unlock all the technological legacies. Even so, it could now roam the endless void. A minute passed quickly, and a huge blue planet appeared in front of Subai. A huge mermaid statue could be seen on this huge planet made of ice. It was naturally the statue of the mermaid recorder of all things. Disregarding its peerless appearance, the intelligent and holy aura it exuded made people involuntarily kneel down. When they arrived here again, Subai suddenly felt a force from nowhere trying to draw him away. It seems that I'm finally qualified this time. Subai nodded, allowing this force to guide him as he quickly disappeared from Planet I. Purple Jade and the other pets stayed where they were. Is Subai in danger? Chen Ruoxue was a little worried. It should be fine. Our Bai's fate is rising. Purple Jade shook her head. The aura of fate on its body was getting stronger and stronger. Yes, don't worry. It won't be dangerous. The big orange cat shook its head as it ate the nihility koi. It was not worried at all, as if it knew something. As soon as the big orange cat said that, the huge ice blue planet suddenly emitted a dazzling blue light. Then, the special energy that turned into an endless water source immediately contracted. When this energy contracted to the limit, Subai's figure was revealed. The two books floated in front of him. One of them was his law-level contract book, and the other was a blue book with an ancient aura. It seemed to emit an endless aura of wisdom. The two books approached each other and slowly merged together. Subai looked at the fused contract book with 30% confusion and 70% pity in his eyes. After a long silence, he shook his head and slowly flew back. That was the book of knowledge of the mermaid recorder of all things. It looks like it has really died. The big orange cat put down the half fish in its hand and shook its head in pity. It had actually seen the mermaid recorder of all things, who was a very good fairy. The last time it saw it, it was the mermaid who had gone to Sky Fortune Waterfall to find it. It's dead. Chen Ruoxue repeated softly in disbelief. Yes, I can confirm that it's dead. This book of knowledge was the last thing it left behind. Su Bai nodded. He had just entered a special space and seen the body of time left behind by the mermaid. He knew many things, but he could not say them. Some secrets would be discovered by some ancient existences once they were revealed. It was not as if there were no ancient existences in the endless void that had surpassed the eternal grade. The mythical grade with eternal pets were the limits of Blue Planet. But this was just the beginning, for there were still many paths ahead. The reason why the mermaid had died was related to this book of knowledge. The existence of the book of knowledge made it so that secrets that were deeply hidden could potentially be exposed to a third party. Su Bai also understood that the source of his golden fingers was the book of knowledge from the mermaid recorder of all things. Only the power of this book of knowledge could allow him to obtain information on any monster that he saw. However, compared to this contract book, his golden fingers were insignificant. Other than that, the power contained in this book of knowledge was not small. The source of all the water in the world was here. All water-type attacks could not harm Su Bai anymore. Unfortunately, the offensive power of this contract book and the knowledge and secrets recorded in it were temporarily unusable. This book of knowledge was still in a sealed state. Even after Su Bai found the universe origin left behind by the 4 great creation pets, he only unlocked a few basic abilities of the book. Perhaps when Su Bai's strength reached the level of the mermaid recorder of all things, he would be able to unseal it. Bai, I feel like the barrier of the ruins of chaos is weakening. We can leave now. The elf piped up at this time. After grasping the power of destiny, Purple Jade's perception ability was not even comparable to that of Planet Eye. It could directly detect everything by observing the changes in fate. I see. Then let's go straight out and return to Blue Planet. Su Bai nodded. He did not know what the situation on Blue Planet had become after 3 months. Okay. Chen Ruoxue and her pets naturally had no objections. Although only 3 months had passed in the outside world, they had not seen Blue Planet for 1,000 years. Therefore, they were naturally very curious about its current situation. Blue Planet. In the 3 months that Su Bai had been gone, there had also been a huge change. First, the aliens had descended on Blue Planet and occupied a large amount of land. The Oceania, half of Africa, and a small part of Asia had become the territory of the aliens. Most of the humans moved to Hope Star. With both internal and external threats, the half-destroyed alliance and the remaining knowledgeable humans could not reverse the current situation of the world. It was difficult for them to support themselves alone, and they were even losing ground. Sirius Star and Saint Star, 2 planets formed by human escapist leaders and traitors, had completely isolated themselves from this event. But it seemed that they did not leave the planet, for they would occasionally be spotted on Blue Planet. Of course, they were not trying to protect their homes. Instead, they were trying to reap benefits and conspire for the tokens and power left behind by the 4 great pets of creation. The alien inside was already powerful enough, but it was nothing compared to the pressure from the outside. Originally, after the Void World's defense line had been broken, Blue Planet had been unable to withstand the invasion of all kinds of terrifying existences in the endless void. With the appearance of the Lord of Infinite Matter's maze realm, clues left behind by the 4 pets of creation had appeared one after another, causing Blue Planet to encounter an unprecedented invasion. The 4 legendary pets all had very rare abilities and powers in the endless void. It was said that the origin of the universe they hid was also a very special existence, and they seemed to contain different powers. Not only were all kinds of powerful monsters constantly entering the space where Blue Planet was, but some low-level monsters were also running here in piles, crowding toward Blue Planet. It was as if there was something special here that attracted them. Groups after groups of them charged forward without fear of death. On Blue Planet, outside the atmosphere of the Rabbit Kingdom, as well as in the Void World, Huge floating islands were built here. In addition to continuous missiles and all kinds of attacks, countless pet tamers were defending here to kill these monsters who were trying to enter Blue Planet, especially those charging toward Asia. The Sea Abyss. Originally, the situation here had been mostly cleared up by the various gymnasiums, human pet tamers, and the government. But as news of the Lord of Infinite Material spread, the situation here changed. More and more powerful monsters or existences had quietly descended here and watched everything closely. 1 month ago, the secret plane of the Lord of Infinite Matter had completely opened. All kinds of monsters had flocked to it. A few gymnasiums and the government of the Rabbit Kingdom were forced to retreat in defeat. They were squeezed to the edge of the abyss. Only some legendary pet tamers could barely enter the secret plane to start exploring. On this day, on the surface of Sea Abyss, in the void in front of the various gymnasiums where they were stationed, dense monsters constantly surged out from the various space cracks in the Sea Abyss, attacking Sea Abyss's exit. There were countless monsters. The number of monsters that came out of the rift was in the hundreds of millions, but there were even more that had yet to come out. The weakest monsters here were at least in the 3rd tier commander grade. Most of them were at the monarch or emperor grade. They were much stronger than the monsters that had invaded the void world outside of Blue Planet. Even with Fuyao Gymnasium, Yin Yang, Imperial Dragon, and the military from the 4 gymnasiums, as well as the 20 million pet tamers from the Rabbit Kingdom, they were still losing. In the face of almost endless monsters, countless pet tamers had died in battle. In a huge conference room, 8 people were sitting around a rectangular conference table. In front of them were holographic projections that contained all sorts of information. The person sitting here to take charge of the entire situation was none other than the #1 human expert, the founder of the Imperial Dragon Gymnasium, Du Qianquan. Of the other 7 people, except for the 4 curators of the gymnasiums, the other 3 were from the military. After a moment of silence, Du Qianquan said, "Everyone should be aware of the situation. After more than a month of holding our ground, we have already lost more than 100,000 pet tamer. The number of pets that have died in battle is uncountable. Even so, we can't hold on anymore. Facing more and more monsters, we can't hold on anymore. But behind us is Blue Planet and my Rabbit Kingdom. If we abandon the defense here, it's equivalent to giving up the Rabbit Kingdom. The Rabbit Kingdom is our only home on Blue Planet. How can we give up?" The person who spoke was a big boss from the military. "Actually, what we're doing is meaningless. I know that we can't abandon our homeland. But now, all 10 space cracks on Blue Planet have been opened. It's only a matter of time before the entire planet is occupied by monsters. If we continue to hold on, many people will die in such a meaningless battle with a foregone conclusion." The person who spoke this time was the curator of Yin Yang Gymnasium. She was a female curator named Qiu Yu. She had a middle-level immortal monster and was a legendary pet tamer. "I think Qiu Yu is right. There's no point in holding on. If the other 6 gymnasiums were still around, we could still manage. But now, our strength isn't enough to protect Blue Planet anymore. We might as well let them in and let them kill each other with the otherworldly humans and the other monsters. If we use up too much of our energy, we might not be able to protect the people from Sirius Star and Saint Star from kicking us while we're down. Those traitors have been eyeing us covetously all this time." The person who spoke this time was the curator of Imperial Beast Gymnasium, Liu Mo. Upon hearing this, the others fell silent. Liu Mo was telling the truth. Originally, only the peak gymnasiums, Giant Kraken, Giant Ray, Water Sage, and Insect God had originally betrayed them. Not long ago, 2 other gymnasiums, Phoenix and All Living Things Gymnasiums, had left collectively on their way back to Hope Star and had defected to Sirius Star. This was a huge blow to the others. With the departure of the upper echelons, the defense difficulty on the Sea Abyss side has increased by many times. Advanced pet tamers were what humans lacked the most at the moment. But don't forget, the source of the pet tamers is on Blue Planet. If we leave Blue Planet, our descendants might not be able to create contract books and become pet tamers. Although this has yet to happen, the aliens have already occupied Blue Planet. Some of them have already given birth to soul stones and now possess contracts. The potential of being a royal pet warrior was limitless. It was very likely to be lost after leaving Blue Star. The reason why those monsters kept entering Blue Planet was probably that the legendary universe origin left behind by the 4 divine beasts of creation was hidden here. Just the aura emitted by this origin source could allow these monsters to obtain endless benefits. As long as we humans occupied Blue Planet, we'll definitely have great achievements in the endless void in the future. This is an opportunity for our entire race. I don't want to escape. Furthermore, where can we run to? Did everyone forget Alliance leader Fang Ziyu's warning before he left? The person who spoke this time was Fang Qingcheng, the curator of Fuyao Gymnasium. He was also one of the strongest humans. He was a half-step mythical pet tamer and had an eternal pet in his arsenal. Furthermore, he was the youngest half-step mythical pet tamer in the human race. He was only 35 years old this year. It was only a matter of time before he surpassed Du Chenkuan and became the strongest human expert. As he said this, many people present recalled the secret meeting held by Fang Ziyu when the Pet Alliance was established more than 100 years ago. If what Fang Ziyu said was true, then there was really no place for humans in the vast universe. For a while, everyone fell into a long silence. The fate of humanity seemed to have fallen into an irreversible abyss of despair, just like the current situation on Blue Planet. Sigh, if only a hero could step forward now. A human hero. Imperial Beast Gymnasium's curator sighed. Then, he shook his head again. The current situation of humans was not something that a lone hero could salvage. Thousands of heroes could not save them either. The opponent they were facing was simply too terrifying and with strength beyond their imagination. Chapter 365: Su Bai's Return. In the distance, there were various human missiles and hydrogen bombs flying around amidst a large-scale bombardment. Even so, the number of monsters remained dense and innumerable. Senior Sister He Yu, let's retreat. This defense line has already collapsed. If we don't leave now, we'll be surrounded by monsters soon. A young man riding a blood mantis came not far from He Yu to deliver a message. I understand. You can retreat first. He Yu nodded and looked at the seemingly endless monsters in the void. She turned to look at Han Wei, who was not far away, and then at the floating base that was already very close. This was already the final 3 lines of defense. If it was broken, they would probably have to retreat. In this wave of monsters, even if she had 2 sovereign pets, they would not be of much use. After retreating with her pets, He Yu quickly met up with Han Wei, Ouyang Du, and the others. I wonder where senior brother Su Bai has gone. Grandmaster Zhonglu and the others have been back for more than a month, Han Wei said worriedly as she looked at the wave of monsters. Perhaps when senior brother Su Bai returns, the sea abyss will be lost. When the time comes, it will be troublesome if senior brother Su Bai becomes trapped here. Maybe he's still increasing his strength somewhere. Senior brother Su Bai's strength will increase tremendously every time he comes back. I wonder how far he can go after returning this time. If he can become a half-step legendary pet tamer, he might still be able to do something about this wave. He Yu shook her head. It's difficult. Senior brother Su Bai's pets are too strong. Breaking through to the immortal grade for him is difficult. Ouyang Du shook his head. Raising a pet to the immortal grade was much more difficult than directly contracting an immortal monster. Senior brother, we received a notice from the gymnasium headquarters. They want us to make a slow retreat. It looks like they're preparing to give up guarding this place. At this moment, a young man sent a message. He Yu, Han Wei, and the others nodded. They were not surprised. Retreating was almost inevitable. They could not defend this place at all. At this moment, a powerful aura suddenly came from afar. Following that, a wave of black monsters swept over from all directions. Is that the spirit-devouring black locust wave? Seeing this, He Yu was stunned. She had encountered spirit-devouring black locusts before. This kind of monster was extremely special. Not only did it have the characteristic of devouring spirit energy, but the special light membrane on its body could also reflect spirit energy attacks. It was extremely difficult to kill. Now, it had actually formed a bug tide and was rushing over to them. In an instant, She knew that there was no way for them to block such a threat. The spirit-devouring black locust was like a tide. Wherever it passed, not a single blade of grass was left behind. When the other monsters faced the spirit-devouring black locust, they were all mercilessly devoured. For a time, these monsters who were not afraid of death all avoided it one after another, not daring to touch its edge. All pet tamers, retreat collectively and abandon the third defense line. All pet tamers, retreat collectively and abandon the third defense line. Accompanied by the information transmitted by the electromagnetic satellite monsters, large-scale hydrogen bombs fell on the bugs like a meteor shower. For a time, bright little suns shone in this not-so-bright void. Countless monsters dissipated amidst the light and heat. But as the explosions disappeared less than half an hour later, the dense wave of monsters rushed over once again. It was simply endless, and looking at it alone made one's scalp tingle. "Let's go." Han Wei shook her head, her face filled with gloom. When could these monsters be wiped out? Just as they were about to retreat, a silent spatial fluctuation emanated. Then, a metal planet with a diameter of more than 100 kilometers appeared in a blink of an eye. Planet I. Seeing this familiar pet, Han Wei could not help but cry out in surprise. Senior brother Su Bai is back. Speaking of the devil, he was also a little surprised. Eldest senior brother had actually returned just as they were talking about him. Elder brother Su Bai, look here. Ouyang Du shouted. Not only Ouyang Du and the others, but some other disciples of Imperial Dragon Gymnasium also noticed Su Bai's planet eye and shouted excitedly. Senior brother Su Bai, you're back. The other disciples and some other pet tamers looked over. They did not understand why the disciples were so excited. In particular, some new faces revealed puzzled expressions. What was so powerful about Su Bai? It was said that the eldest senior brother of the Imperial Dragon Gymnasium seemed to be very powerful. However, even the curator could not withstand such a terrifying monster, let alone an eldest senior brother. Even if his past achievements were glorious, he was just a small boat in the waves of this era. He could not cause any big waves. Many people felt that the excitement of the Imperial Dragon Gymnasium's disciples was a little childish. Only a few people looked over. One of them was eldest senior brother Fang Yuan, who controlled the Frost Dragon. It seems that Su Bai has gained a lot from this trip. Fang Yuan said softly as he looked at Planet I. Do you think he has already become a half-step legendary pet tamer? A young girl standing beside Fang Yuan said. Yes, he might have become a legendary pet tamer. Su Bai has great luck and his potential cannot be underestimated. Fang Yuan smiled and shook his head. Even so, isn't he just about equal to yours? Is there a need to praise him like this? The young girl glanced at Planet I and shrugged. He's a very special guy. Maybe he can break the current disadvantage of humans. Fang Yuan smiled and shook his head. Then, he felt that he was exaggerating. On the other side, on Planet I, Su Bai and Chen Ruoshua looked at the dense wave of monsters in front of them and could not help but shake their heads. It seems that the current situation of humans is much more serious than the information we have obtained. It hasn't even been 3 months, but Sea Abyss can't even defend itself anymore. But that's good too. Let's change the fate of humans from this moment on. Su Bai took a deep breath and spoke slowly. He now had the confidence to say this. Eldest senior brother, you're finally back. This place is dangerous. We're about to retreat. Let's hurry back to the base. Han Wei, Ouyang Du, and Hiyu flew over with a group of disciples. These people were Su Bai's most loyal leaders. Don't worry. I've already informed Grand Master Du Chenkuan to stop the hydrogen bombs. I can resolve the situation here. We shouldn't retreat. It's these monsters that should retreat. Su Bai looked at Han Wei and nodded. Eldest senior brother. Come again. Ouyang Du could not help but ask. Su Bai's words earlier made them feel like they were hallucinating. Su Bai did not answer. He slowly raised his hand. Little blood dragon, let's start with you. After so many years, it's time for you to make a breakthrough to the eternal grade. Roar. Su Bai's voice was accompanied by an earth-shattering dragon roar. A blood-colored light flew out from his wrist. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a blood-colored divine dragon that blotted out the sky. As soon as the terrifying aura revealed itself, the entire battlefield fell silent. They were stunned into silence by the aura that was as terrifying as the abyss. Even the eternal pets of Du Qianquan and the others did not dare to come close to it. Everyone was shocked when they sensed the ancestor blood dragon's aura. It's the ancestor blood dragon at the peak of the immortal grade. What a horrifying aura. Yu's jaw dropped when she saw the divine dragon flying out. The terrifying aura it carried seemed to be even stronger than the eternal monsters. Han Wei, Ouyang Du, and the others were all rendered speechless. Before Su Bai returned, they had made all sorts of guesses as to how strong he currently was, but this situation never popped up even in their wildest imaginations. Eldest senior brother Su Bai's divine dragon had already evolved to such a level. This was simply shocking. Not far away, Su Yuan looked at the girl beside him, whose jaw had dropped in shock. He smiled and said, "How is it? Did I say anything wrong? The ancestor blood dragon is already at the peak of the immortal grade. Since it has matured this much already, I cannot even fathom how close he is to becoming a mythical pet tamer." Su Yuan was envious. He might already be a legendary pet tamer, but he knew how difficult it was to become a mythical pet tamer. Su Bai's ancestor blood dragon was only at the peak immortal grade, but its aura was even stronger than some eternal monsters. Even his third-generation frost dragon would be suffocated by this ancestor blood dragon's aura. Furthermore, he could vaguely sense two other auras appearing on the dragon. Perhaps only the first-generation frost dragon could compete with this ancestor blood dragon. Upon hearing Su Yuan's words, the young girl remained stubborn. So what if that's the case? He's only at the peak of the immortal grade. He's not at the eternal grade after all. He won't be of much help to our current situation. As for him being a mythical pet tamer, how laughable. He doesn't even have an eternal pet. We don't know how close he is to becoming a mythical pet tamer. Do you think that he could achieve the realm that no one could reach in more than 100 years? If he becomes a mythical pet tamer, then I'll shout to the entire human race that I am a stupid pig. I'll ride a pig in the future. The girl said disdainfully. Su Yuan shook his head helplessly. This sister of his was just too stubborn for him to convince in a few words. On the floating island further away, Du Qianquan and the others looked in the direction of Su Bai with disbelief on their faces. Yin Yang Gymnasium's curator Qiu Yu also looked at the others in disbelief. None of you can sense Su Bai's existence as well? He doesn't seem to have leaked any aura of fate. The other 7 people were collectively silent as well. This represented a terrifying truth. It meant that Su Bai had jumped out of time and space. His fate was already completely restrained, and he was no longer affected by the outside world's influence. This meant that he had taken back his time fish and had become a bona fide mythical pet tamer. For a moment, everyone could not believe such a terrifying fact. Keep watching. We'll know in a while. Du Qianquan spoke, his deep gaze seemingly observing Su Bai from afar. The shock on the faces of Du Qianquan and the others didn't last that long. After the ancestor blood dragon let out a dragon roar, an endless blood-colored domain spread out. Every monster in the void, including the spirit-devouring black locusts, was enveloped by this endless sea of blood. Not only that, but the sea of blood also spread out and seeped into the space cracks where the various monsters were. It was like an endless flood. Most of the space cracks in the sea abyss were inundated by the endless blood. Hundreds of millions of monsters were drowned by the sea of blood. In the boundless sea of blood, they were first transformed into blood-type monsters before being emulsified into blood-type essences that the ancestor blood dragon absorbed. After it absorbed the essence of the myriad spirit bloodline, the blood attribute Tao seed in its body began to grow and germinate. In an instant, it turned into a towering tree. After absorbing the blood essence of billions of monsters, Little Blood Dragon directly made up for its perfected blood attribute Great Tao. The Great Tao tree began to turn transparent as its body became like pure blood jade. At some point, a blood-colored divine light bloomed from the Great Tao tree. Then, the entire tree seemed to be on fire as it emitted an endless blood-colored divine light. My God, This is the legendary blood-colored divine light that only appears when an eternal monster is born. Such a monster has transcended time and space. It is eternal, undying, and free. Even if everything in the world is destroyed, it will exist forever. I'm actually lucky enough to see such an existence. My life thus far has been worth it. An impressive genius has appeared in Imperial Dragon Gymnasium. You remember how old he is, right? Is he about to become a legendary half-step mythical pet tamer? Once the ancestor blood dragon advances to the eternal grade, I'm afraid we'll see the birth of a legend. Its power alone is out of our imaginations. This is the first time humans have an ancestor blood dragon pet that has become an eternal existence, am I wrong or not? Look, the long river of time is out. It's about to transcend the most important step. With an eternal grade ancestor blood dragon and such a young half-step mythical human pet tamer, will he really be able to save our human race? Someone exclaimed. For a moment, the entire crowd was in an uproar. Nothing could be more encouraging than the sight of these. Aside from these, nothing could bolster the morale of these humans that had already fallen into despair. The ancestor blood dragon had instantly wiped out trillions of monsters and evolved into an eternal existence on the spot. Even in legends, there were not many such existences, right? Amidst the cheers of tens of millions of people, the blood-colored great Tao tree at the center of the endless sea of blood once again emitted endless divine light. The phantom of the river of time that should have appeared did not appear. Instead, a blood-colored divine dragon that contained the aura of time flew over and fused with the ancestor blood dragon. Du Chenkuan and the others were confused when they saw this. How come the river of time did not appear? It should have appeared. There were also no special monsters that could devour the time fish. Could there be a problem with the long river of time? Everyone shook their heads again, not daring to think in this direction. How could there be a problem with the long river of time? It should be because the ancestor blood dragon was more special, or Subai had a way to avoid the detection of the monsters outside the long river of time. Oh no, it's not good. An immortal and eternal grade monster sensed the ancestor blood dragon's advancement. They want to come over and stop it. Du Chenkuan's expression suddenly changed as he quickly commanded the monsters hidden in the void to attack and prepare to help Subai. The advancement of the ancestor blood dragon could not be interrupted. The others quickly made preparations to help. From the depths of the abyss, 9 powerful auras swept past. They looked at the ancestor blood dragon greedily. If any one of these powerful auras could devour it, they would obtain unimaginable benefits, especially since it was an ancestor blood dragon. Deeper in the forest, there were also some powerful auras that were secretly observing the situation. It was as if they would attack immediately if anything went wrong. I was just worried that I wouldn't be able to find immortal and eternal monsters for me to test my strength on. Subai and Chen Ruoxue naturally sensed the auras of these eternal monsters. Not only were they not afraid, but they were very happy. After 1,000 years of boring cultivation, the two of them had nothing else to do except dual cultivation. Their hands had long been itching for a battle. Don't kill them all, leave 2 of them to me, Chen Ruoxue said to Subai. As soon as Chen Ruoxue's words fell, an earth-shattering dragon roar resounded in the air. As the dragon's roar reverberated, the 9 figures rushing up from the depths of the abyss froze on the spot. The 18 monsters hidden in the void revealed their figures at that moment. Many immortal monsters who were watching were all affected. Just as they were wondering how they had been exposed, the next moment, 33,625 dragon charms erupted simultaneously, and countless spell effects erupted. Immobilization, shadow kill, decay blood, withered bones, death soul. 3,000 dragon-devouring souls, billions of blood curses, millions of cell-autonomous dragon curse. There were more than 10,000 different dragon curses inherited from the cursed first dragon. In addition, Little Blood Dragon had created more than 20,000 dragon curses out of boredom in the ruins of chaos. Even these immortal and eternal monsters could not withstand them. What is this? Oh no, this is the dragon curse of the cursed first dragon. Damn it, isn't that guy completely dead? Isn't its corpse sealed and exiled into nothingness? Damn it, Why is there still the power to destroy the demon dragon? Hasn't that guy died countless years ago? This is impossible. Some of the monsters let out all sorts of inconceivable roars of fear. These powers that had long become a legend had appeared once again, causing unprecedented fear to appear in their hearts. However, they could not even escape. They could only be destroyed by the countless dragon curses and reborn. Then, they would be destroyed again until they were completely destroyed and turned into nutrients for the ancestor blood dragon. Curses were a kind of mystical ability. Especially since the first dragon was one of the creators of curses, the curse released by Little Blood Dragon did not consume its own power at all. Instead, it could be used to communicate with some unknown existences, such as some world's consciousness, those special time monsters in the long river of time, and so on. There was no border in the void, and some powerful existences did not have a border either. In the eyes of those existences that far exceeded the eternal grade, monsters of this level were just the most ordinary food for blood. They could not even interrupt their sleep, and the power they lost might be equivalent to a trace of heat overflowing from their sleep. In less than 10 seconds, these immortal monsters turned into nothingness after dying hundreds of times. A portion of their power was sucked out of thin air, and the rest were devoured by Little Blood Dragon. The only ones who survived were a few eternal monsters that had been discovered long ago, but they had also lost their main bodies. The rest of the clones would take tens of thousands of years to recover. You're too late. Subai looked at the pouting Chen Ruoxue and spread her hands. Little Blood Dragon felt suffocated too. It attacked before I could say anything. For a time, the entire sea abyss became silent. Countless eyeballs seemed to roll on the ground, and countless jaws dropped to the ground, unable to close. Du Qianquan and the others, who were about to help Subai, were stunned on the spot. They were left speechless at this scene. What is this? One move killed thousands of immortal monsters. Even eternal monsters can't withstand a single move. Qiu Yu's jaw dropped. I don't understand. The manager of Fuyao Gymnasium said slowly. I don't understand either. Could Subai have been possessed by someone? Forgive me for not understanding. Seeing the expressions on the faces of the highest-ranking humans and looking at him, Du Qianquan really wanted to say, I don't King understand either. Who would believe that he could reach such a terrifying level in 3 months? Let's ask him when it's over. He has a time pet. There might be something that we're misunderstanding here. Du Qianquan shook his head slowly, his expression still stiff. The highest-ranking humans were all in this state, let alone the others. Only when the ancestor blood dragon had completely integrated with the Dao tree and advanced to the eternal grade, becoming the true eternal ancestor blood dragon, did someone rub their eyes and awakened from their stupor. Fang Yuan could not help but smile bitterly when he saw this. He had thought that he was not far from Subai, but who knew that they were worlds apart? He still remembered the 3 times he had met Subai. The first time was in the monster wilderness when Subai was only an elite pet tamer. By the time they met again at Fuyao Gymnasium, he was already a heavenly king-level pet tamer. It had not been long since then, but he had already surpassed the limits of humans and became the first true mythical pet tamer. What did you just say? Can you repeat yourself? Fang Yuan smiled bitterly at the girl beside him. The young girl had yet to recover from her shock. Her eyes were bigger than copper bells. When she heard Fang Yuan's words, she could not help but blush. I will fulfill my promise. Isn't it just riding a pig? As the ancestor blood dragon advanced to the eternal grade and flew back to Subai's side, a brand new aura was emitted from its body. Everyone who sensed it felt a chill in their hearts and could not help but feel deep veneration for it. This was the aura emitted by someone who had received the feedback of the ancestor blood dragon and had completely become a mythical pet tamer. At this moment, Subai had already completed a special closed loop with his pets. In the future, be it him or her pets, they would be the most difficult existences to kill in the endless void. Congratulations! You have finally reached the peak and become the first mythical pet tamer in human history, Chen Ruoxue said with a smile. Hearing this, Han Wei, He Yu, Ouyang Du, and the others could not help but reveal a look of shock. Although they had their guesses, they still found it unbelievable. After hearing Chen Ruoxue's words, they finally confirmed this fact. They could not help but cup their hands and bow. Congratulations, eldest senior brother, for reaching the peak and becoming a mythical pet tamer. When they said this, the group of people trembled. It was caused by all kinds of excitement. Thank you. Subai revealed a smile and looked up into the void. In the past, I always thought that mythical pet tamers was the end. But upon reaching here, I realized that although the path ahead is pitch black, there seemed to be footprints left behind by my predecessors. It was then that I understood that the end of this path is still distant. As he spoke, Du Gangkuan and the others had already arrived in front of him. They seemed to confirm Subai's identity first before smiling and congratulating him. Congratulations, Subai. You have finally surpassed us old fogies and become the first mythical pet tamer in human history. Seniors, you flatter me. I was just lucky. Subai smiled and shook his head. No, there's no such thing as luck. Old fellows like us have more say in how difficult it is to reach the mythical stage. Du Qiankuan shook his head with a smile and said, let's go somewhere private first. There are some things that cannot be easily known by others. Okay. Subai opened the contract book, and a law-level contract book flew out. As the contract page flipped, 10 earth-shattering wind-blade giant kraken appeared in the void. Each and every one of them was at the peak of the immortal grade. With them around, we can withstand another invasion from those monsters. These void monsters could not be eliminated cleanly. Although the ancestor blood dragon had killed countless just now, Subai could feel that more monsters were emerging. Du Qiankuan and the others could not help but grin when they saw the 10 krakens. They had thought that Subai's progenitor, the blood dragon, had reached the peak of the immortal grade. Now, it seemed that all his pets had reached this level. What kind of great opportunity had allowed him to advance to this level in just 3 months? 3 months. Subai and the others were speechless for a long time. They were just waiting for him to take a look. It seemed like they had yet to accept the fact that this unknown junior had surpassed them and become the first mythical pet tamer in human history. Subai also looked at these seniors. He knew that they were already some of the strongest humans. They were all very strong. But compared to their enemies, they were far too weak. Seniors, do you have any questions for me? Why are you staring at me like that? Subai looked at them and asked. How does it feel to become a mythical pet tamer? After a while of silence, Chiu Yu of the Yin-Yang Gymnasium asked slowly. Subai glanced at the beautiful curator. He had only heard of this senior curator of the Yin-Yang Gymnasium. He had never seen her before. Today, he finally met her in person. I find that it is simply a hurdle. Before I crossed it, I thought that it was the limit and the end of my journey. But I realized that there is still a road up ahead. I'm still a mountaineer halfway up the mountain. Subai organized his words and spoke slowly. I believe all the seniors have seen the abnormality of the projection of the long river of time when my ancestor blood dragon broke through, right? Subai looked at everyone and said, to be honest, this is because there is a problem with the long river of time. There are shocking changes happening up above. Upon hearing this, most people revealed looks of disbelief. Only Du Qiankuan and Fang Qingcheng, the curator of Fuyao Gymnasium, remained calm. Has the sinister devil completed its transformation and began to modify the long river of time? How did you know? Subai looked at the two of them in surprise. The two of them were silent for a moment. Then Fang Qingcheng said, actually, we know much more than you think. All right, we'll take this opportunity to tell everyone here what we know at once. After a pause, he continued. First, let me tell you what the universe and the endless void are. To put it simply, when we went out of Blue Planet, we saw the solar system, the Milky Way, the clouds in our star system, and even the entire observable universe. This ordinary physical universe that had evolved for more than 13 billion years is our universe. There are many universes like ours, but at the same time, we are unique. Only a universe like ours, which is at the edge of the endless void, won't give birth to Beyonder powers because it is remote and has very few Beyonder matter. Only a universe formed from thin ordinary matter will not give birth to Beyonder powers. The universe at the center of the endless void is much larger than our universe. The entities it contains are trillions of times greater than in our universe. As for the endless void, it refers to the universe geometry system in chaos. The endless void we are in is called the primordial void. It is infinitely big and has an infinite world. Even the most advanced technological civilization is unable to specifically calculate how many entities it contains. All you need to know is that it is as uncountable as the atoms in our universe. Furthermore, this kind of endless void is not unique in chaos. Chaos doesn't have a size, and it contains myriads of endless voids. But the gathered bodies of worlds like the endless void are like a virus to the chaos will. It is against the will of the lawless chaos. Thus, it was destroyed. Therefore, even in the endless void, the amalgamation of worlds without universes still had times of destruction and birth. Even if one's lifespan is unimaginably long, there is still an end to it. The endless monsters we faced came from an endless void that was constantly being torn apart by the entropy from chaos. In order to escape the destruction of chaos, the lives in these voids gathered together and pushed the endless void that they were in towards the primordial void. The area where our universe is located happens to be the collision zone between two endless voids. Therefore, it would seem as if many monsters are invading our land. But it is also because of this that extraordinary power can be obtained in low-energy, low-dimensional universes like ours. Only then can pet tamers be born. We, humans, are the first batch of intelligent life forms in this universe. We can admit that we have received the greatest benefits in this struggle. In particular, our blue planet still has the origin of the four powerful existences that escaped from the monster universe. This makes this place even more special. This is why a pet tamer can exist. Even in a high-dimensional beyonder universe, life can only be extraordinary by itself. But humans can be bound to pets and become extraordinary by growing with them. Such a phenomenon is unprecedented even in the endless void. The four defectors were also known as the four great pets of creation. Not only were they hiding the origin of our universe, but they were also hiding the origin refined from the four most powerful ancient universe entities in the monster void. Therefore, our place was destined to not be peaceful. Especially after the birth of the four great tokens, all the powerful existences in the two endless voids would focus their attention on us. Against such existences, forget about the mythical stage, even a million mythical existences would be useless. This is the problem humanity is currently facing. In a certain sense, fleeing is actually the best choice. But once we did that, we would abandon the future of humanity. After leaving Blue Planet, our descendants will no longer be able to give birth to a soul stone, nor a contract. After saying this, Fang Qingcheng fell silent. It was as if he was waiting for Su Bai to digest the information. Su Bai was silent, but the big orange cat's voice sounded in his mind. I didn't expect there to be someone among you humans who knows about this. It's really strange. All of these are well-kept secrets. Do you know what he's saying? Su Bai asked. Of course. As the Lord of Endless Wealth, I naturally know some things. It's not a big deal. It's just like a merger of galaxies. The big orange cat meowed proudly. Then what do you think is the best solution to humanity's current situation? Su Bai asked again. Of course it's to escape. Where there's life, there's hope. Only by living will there be everything. I just investigated. This is not the first time that humans have been pushed into a corner like this. With your current strength, you should be able to confirm what I am talking about. Therefore, it's better to leave. We may not be able to survive what's coming. Only the humans here would be affected and those ordinary pet tamers. What's coming won't affect your existence at all, which has already escaped the restrictions of time and space. The big orange cat slowly revealed what it had analyzed. Indeed, humanity's current predicament no longer affected Su Bai. As long as he left, he still had a bright future somewhere out there. Su Bai looked up at Fang Qingcheng and Du Chengkuan and said, "The Ark of Hope was built for this, right?" "Yes, it started construction more than 100 years ago. It's much better than the hastily constructed Sirius and the Saint God Star." Du Chengkuan nodded. This was a backup plan prepared by the upper echelons of the human race. What was your original plan? Su Bai asked again. The original plan was to let humans choose voluntarily. Those who were willing to leave would leave, and those who were unwilling to leave would stay. We had to leave some seeds of hope for humanity. Actually, we already knew what was coming when the Saint Godstar and the Sirius Star were still being built. The reason we did not think too much into it was that we wanted to have another chance and an opportunity. Now that the situation on Blue Planet is no longer under our control. With the appearance of the tokens of the 4 great creation pets, more and more powerful existences are bound to appear. We can no longer control the situation here. We were originally planning to retreat and escape to the void not far from Blue Planet to restart the development of humanity and find another opportunity. Du Qianquan looked at Su Bai and said, "But now that you're back, we want to hear your opinion." The others had no objections. As the strongest human expert, Su Bai had the right to have his opinion heard. "I won't interfere with your original plan, but I can protect those who are willing to stay on Blue Planet. Blue Planet is our home, and I'm not willing to leave. I won't stop those that want to leave. It just so happens that you'll lead them out of here. With you guiding the final spark of humanity, I'll rest assured that humanity won't go extinct even if something happens to us here on Blue Planet. As for the traitors on the Sirius Star, forgive me for not showing mercy, especially against Giant Kraken Gymnasium. Traitors are traitors. There's no reason for us to protect them. As for that Saint Godstar, I won't do anything unprovoked. That's all I have to say. There's nothing else." Hearing Su Bai's words, Fang Qingcheng and the others were a little surprised. They thought that Su Bai would choose to leave. After all, they knew that the more powerful one was, the more they would understand how dire humanity's current predicament was. Du Qianquan nodded and said, "All right, we'll carry out our original plan. Imperial Dragon Gymnasium and Fuyao Gymnasium will stay behind. The rest of you can go to Hope Star." Su Bai listened to Du Qianquan's words and did not say anything. Only after everything was settled did he say to Fang Qingcheng, "This information came from the First Alliance leader, Fang Ziyu, right? Is there no way to contact him? He should be much stronger than me. Can't he help us? It really came from him, but we can't contact him. When he left back then, he said that this was an opportunity and a challenge. He said that he was only passing by and would not participate in our matters. Ever since he left, we haven't been able to contact him again. But as time passed, what he said back then began to come true." Fang Qingcheng shook his head slowly. It was not that he did not want to, but he could not. Fang Ziyu did not leave them with any contact details before he left. "All right, I understand." Su Bai nodded and said, "If there's nothing else, I'll leave first." "One more thing." Du Qianquan stopped Su Bai and smiled. "The situation on Blue Planet is not good. The outer space is filled with monsters. Help us resolve this and let humans have a proper living environment for the time being." "No problem. You didn't have to tell me." Su Bai nodded. "After I've settled some of my trivial matters first, I'll handle the problem over there. It won't be long, only a few hours at most." Su Bai nodded and walked out of the meeting room. Du Qianquan and the others looked at Su Bai's face and already guessed what he wanted to do. "We're not stopping them. Sirius Star might look fragile and weak right now, but it could just be a pretense. What's more, those guys have the support of other existences in the endless void. Otherwise, Phoenix and all living things Gymnasium would not have betrayed us." The person who spoke was Qiu Yu from Yin-Yang Gymnasium. "It wasn't easy for us humans to give birth to a mythical Pet Tamer. We can't just lose him like this. It's fine. Mythical Pet Tamers are far stronger than we can imagine. It's simply too difficult for him to die. In that case, we should just let him fight and release his anger." Du Qianquan shook his head and smiled. "Besides, those traitors deserve to die, don't they? I'm going out there to watch him fight. I feel like I can make a breakthrough into the mythical stage while watching him." Fang Qingcheng looked up and disappeared from where he was the next second. The others looked at each other and decided to take a look as well. Su Bai left the meeting room and sensed Chen Ruoshua's location before teleporting over. "Hey, Su Bai, you're back so soon?" Sensing Su Bai, Chen Ruoshua revealed a surprised expression. "Eldest senior brother. Han Wei, He Yu, and the others, who were chatting with Chen Ruoxue, quickly greeted him. They were surprised by Su Bai's sudden appearance. Was this the power of a mythical pet tamer? It truly left anyone amazed. Yes, I'm done with the matters over there, so nothing's stopping us anymore. Su Bai nodded. You're all doing well. Gather the others together. Give me an hour, I need to talk to everyone. Su Bai looked at Han Wei and the others. Don't worry, eldest senior brother. We'll do it well. Upon hearing this, the three of them could not help but reveal happy smiles. Although eldest senior brother's strength had become unfathomable, he was still the same eldest senior brother in their memories. After Han Wei and the others left, Chen Ruoxue turned to Su Bai and asked, Are you preparing to deal with those traitors from Sirius Star? After being together for more than 1,000 years, she already knew Su Bai like the back of her hand. She could understand every expression on his face. That's right, Su Bai nodded. I'm afraid that if this drags on, they'll know that I've returned after breaking through into the mythical stage. Therefore, the sooner we do this, the better. You can come along too, we'll take revenge. Okay. Chen Ruoxue stretched her hands and yawned. In the next second, they returned to Planet I. Then, Planet I disappeared silently into the void. When they reappeared, they were in a completely unfamiliar place. This place was filled with broken rock planets of all sizes. The most eye-catching thing was the dark green planet that was 3 times the size of Blue Planet at the center. This was Sirius Star. Su Bai had too many ways to find this hidden planet. However, what surprised Su Bai was that Sirius Star was actually hidden in such a place. Looking at this dark green planet, Su Bai slowly said, Chang Tian, Bai Ling, Sun Jie, Tang Long, and the giant Kraken Gymnasium, your deaths have arrived. Those unrelated shall be given 3 minutes to leave. Otherwise, you will be buried here with Sirius Star. As soon as his words fell, an incomparably huge blood-colored god dragon had already enveloped the entire Sirius Star. A terrifying aura that was like an abyss inundated everything down below. The people living on Sirius Star only heard a loud voice that rang fiercely in their minds. Then, the sky darkened and an incomparably terrifying aura descended. In an instant, every monster and human being prostrated on the ground, unable to move. This was not the result of a dragon curse. Such domineering might was the result of a horrifying existence's aura. Oh my God! What's going on? What a terrifying aura! What kind of monster is that? Are we going to die? Oh no, I can't breathe. What is this? It has nothing to do with me. Don't kill me, don't kill me. In an instant, the entire Sirius Star was in chaos. The horror in everyone's hearts could not be described. Even among the upper echelons of Sirius Star, some legends, and even half-step mythical pet tamers were dumbfounded by this aura. What kind of existence was this, that its aura was so terrifying? But since they could join forces to build a planet, these upper echelons were naturally not to be trifled with. Soon, 30,000 energy shields appeared outside Sirius Star. Powerful pets flew into space. A furious mental voice transmission came from Sirius Star. Who are you? We advise you to leave. This is Sirius Star's base. If you won't leave, then don't blame us for being rude. When they saw this blood-colored divine dragon, which was even larger than the Sirius Star itself, their expressions turned ugly. Is that the ancestor blood dragon? Someone asked with a voice transmission. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The sight of the eternal ancestor blood dragon was too shocking. That's Su Bai. I didn't expect him to nurture the ancestor blood dragon to this extent. Unbelievable. The person who spoke was Xiao Tianlong, the patriarch of the Imperial Dragon family. He had a deep impression of Su Bai and the ancestor blood dragon. In fact, he had sent people to snatch the ancestor blood dragon from Su Bai many times before. Back then, when he found out that Su Bai still had a divine skill, he even told his son, Xiao Yulong, to bring a sovereign dark attribute dragon to chase after Su Bai in the Abyss Starfield. However, he did not expect that this brat would be able to escape from a situation of certain death. Now that they met again, Su Bai's aura seemed to have become stronger than his. He was clearly standing there, but he gave off a mysterious feeling as if he had transcended time and space. Could it be that he was already a mythical pet tamer? How was this possible? How could a junior like him reach the mythical stage? It was more believable that he had obtained a fortuitous encounter that enabled him to nurture the ancestor blood dragon to the eternal level. A series of changes flashed across Xiao Yulong's heart. He could not even accept such an outcome. As a result, how could he accept it? As Su Bai had arrived too quickly and had deliberately blocked the news of his arrival, the Sirius Star headquarters had yet to receive news that he was already a mythical pet tamer. Otherwise, they would not have run out so casually to face him. "Mph, what kind of dogsh *t luck did you have to be so arrogant here? Hurry and get lost. We'll spare your dog life for Du Chenkuan's sake." The person who spoke was the head of the Wang family, Wang Minglu. He was wearing a black Dao robe and his expression was cold. This was Wang Yi's father. The Wang family he was from was known as the #1 family in the Rabbit Kingdom. He had contributed the most to the establishment of the Sirius Star and was also the current leader of the Sirius Star Alliance. Don't think that you're invincible just because you have an eternal ancestor blood dragon. This world has so much more experts than you think. Leader Wang has already spoken. Go back. Don't be too arrogant. Be humble. The person who spoke this time was the head of the Zhu family. His daughter, Zhu Lingen, knew Su Bai, so he did not hate him as much as others. Apart from these family heads, the founding directors of Peak Gymnasiums, who had already betrayed Blue Planet, had also shown themselves. Of course, this included the founder of the giant Kraken Gymnasium, Liu Chuan. He glanced at Su Bai expressionlessly. He still knew the grudge between his gymnasium and Su Bai. However, he was not certain that there was anything wrong with what his subordinates had done. The Kraken nest was something that should have been controlled by their giant Kraken Gymnasium. Since Su Bai did not know how to appreciate favors, it was understandable for him to use forceful methods for his agenda. The weak had always been prey to the strong in this world. Su Bai looked at these people, his gaze pausing on Liu Chuan for a moment before he looked away. "I don't want to kill the innocent. Hand over the people I want. I can spare the others. I don't want to repeat myself," Su Bai said calmly. "It seems like you really think you're invincible just because you have an eternal blood dragon. You brat that doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Wang Minglu sneered and continued. "Since he doesn't want to leave, let him stay. We can research on how this ancestor blood dragon came to be." As his voice fell, powerful and deep auras were transmitted from the void around the Sirius Star. Soon, more than 10 powerful eternal monsters and almost 100 peak immortal monsters appeared in the outer space zone of the Sirius Star, surrounding the ancestor blood dragon. Each of these monsters had the aura of a star, and they were not much smaller than the Sirius Star. They were all ultimate entities that had reached the end of their path of evolution. "Seal this ancestor blood dragon for me. Let him know how truly high the sky is." As these people gave their orders, terrifying auras erupted from these monsters. The resulting effects were as resplendent as stars, instantly lighting up the dark starry sky. Roar. But at that moment, a dragon's roar rang out and an invisible law seemed to descend. For a moment, the monsters that had been jumping around seemed to have stopped in their tracks. They stood there in a daze. In an instant, 3,500 sealing dragon curses were activated. Another second passed. 11,000 weakening dragon curses were effective. The third second. 10,000 kinds of dragon curses were used. All kinds of dazzling effects flashed in the void as the monsters were pulverized at once. In the end, the 9,000 purified dragon curses triggered in an instant. All the purified essence turned into a blood-colored torrent that fused into the ancestor blood dragon. In less than 5 seconds, these ultimate existences on the path of evolution disappeared into space. Be it Liu Chuan and the others on the Sirius Star's side or Du Chenkuan, who was secretly observing the battle from the side, all of them looked like they were in a daze. This was a scene they had never seen before. The ancestor blood dragon's actions had already made them unable to believe that it was an eternal monster. It had only roared once, its claws had not even moved. The pets that they were so proud of were destroyed just like that. In addition, Their pets were not ordinary monsters. Each and every one of them was an ultimate existence that they had carefully nurtured. Since you all have chosen to attack, it means that you are prepared to face the consequences of your actions. Subai shook his head and looked at Time Ghost, Little Tyrant, Mewling Fox, and Purple Jade beside him. Annihilate all that shouldn't exist. Ha 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 ha, with just you, Subai? Do you really think that you're invincible? I can guarantee you will regret coming here. You'll regret killing our pets. Suddenly, Liu Chuan laughed like he had gone mad. As he laughed, a special spatial ripple spread out. A special existence seemed to have descended. In the next second, an incomparably huge world actually broke through the spatial barrier here and materialized. It was a blood-red planet. It was as big as Uranus, almost 100 times larger than Blue Planet. From afar, it looked like a squirming planet. When it approached, Subai saw that it was a special monster. Just its size alone was 100 times larger than the current progenitor, the ancestor blood dragon. Lord Dragon King, this ancestor blood dragon can definitely let your dragon god of corpses break through the limit of the immortal rank and reach an unprecedented level. Liu Chuan bowed to a black figure that had appeared on the blood-colored planet. This black figure nodded and walked out of the shadows, his gaze landing on Subai. Subai's gaze also landed on him. This person's muscles were as thick as the roots of an old tree. He was 3 meters tall and had a pair of huge black horns on his head. He looked like a devil muscular man from a comic. The boss of the 12 Dragon Slayer organization, Black Dragon King? You must be the backer behind these guys. Subai looked at him and the huge monster behind him. I was just worried that I wouldn't be able to find you. I didn't expect you guys to be together. It saves me a lot of effort. Black Dragon King was unmoved by Subai's words. He looked at the ancestor blood dragon beside him with interest. He had always known about Subai. He had even sensed it when the ancestor blood dragon was awakened. However, he had never deliberately targeted Subai. Yes, he had also turned a blind eye to Wei Ya. The main goal was to let Subai nurture the ancestor blood dragon. Unlike other types of dragons, a full-blooded blood dragon was very useful to him. He could patch up the last few flaws of the dragon god of corpses. The origin power of the blood attribute could also combine the various chaotic auras in the dragon god of corpses' body into one. Take a look. This is such a great masterpiece. You should consciously integrate the ancestor blood dragon into this great masterpiece. Black Dragon King raised his hands high in the air, showing his madness and obsession. As he moved, the huge blood-colored planet behind him unfolded. This was a huge dragon-like monster that looked like a blood-colored dragon. It had 12 huge heads, each as big as Blue Planet, and the attributes of each head were different. Behind it were 12 pairs of blood-colored wings that blotted out the sky. They also emitted different energy fluctuations. Its chest and abdomen were the most unusual. It looked especially bloated and round. After it expanded, it was actually hundreds of millions of blood-colored tubes that extended out densely. From afar, it looked like a strange blood-colored sea urchin. The aura it emitted was also abnormally strange. Although this aura was abnormally powerful and had already reached the limit of the eternal grade. However, there was an abnormal feeling of chaos. It was as if they were not a united entity. Subai immediately checked the other party's data. There were no secrets in front of him. Name: race, dragon god of corpses; gender, none; level, high-level eternal attributes, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, light, dark, poison, time, space, blood, sound, special feature passive, assimilate, basic characteristic. It can assimilate other existences into one with itself and inherit everything. At the same time, it can integrate all the attributes to evolve its own characteristics and skills. Creation, as it has integrated and assimilated all kinds of dragons, the various laws in its body have been perfected. It can create its own corresponding characteristic response to different situations. Skill, an existence at this realm can already create skills at will. They can integrate the laws at will to form different effects. Control, all attributes weakness. It has no weaknesses, But its greatest weakness is that its body and soul are not uniform. Evolutionary direction, dragon god, introduction. This is a special dragon-type monster created using an evil method. It has already assimilated all kinds of dragons. The power of the ancestor blood dragon's origin is accumulated in its body. It can use all dragon skills and is immune to all attribute attacks. Moreover, it has already completed the connection between its great Dao tree and the other dragons. It has fused all the characteristics of the dragons. It only needs to fuse with a blood element eternal ancestor dragon to truly transform. After breaking through the eternal grade and becoming a fundamental existence at the origin tier, it can completely integrate all the power and will in its body with the power of evolution and complete the unification of its power. It can evolve into the true ancestor dragon and become the new dragon god. However, even the dragon god of corpses in its current state is extremely powerful. There is almost no one below the origin tier who can match it, especially when it is facing dragon-type existences. It is immune to all dragon-type attacks below the origin tier, and it is also extremely immune to all 12 origin attribute attacks. Moreover, it has almost infinite characteristics and skills, because it has integrated all kinds of dragons. It can create corresponding characteristics and skills to deal with situations based on the integration of its own laws. The only thing it is afraid of is the invisible fate and the legendary dragon-eating treasure, the Dragon Ball. The Dragon Ball can awaken the last consciousness of the assimilated dragon and cause chaos in its body. A group of clowns hiding in the dark. Come out. You are lucky to witness this earth-shattering moment. The dragon god of corpses released a faint aura, and Du Chenkuan and the others who were hidden in the void were all exposed. Su Bai, hurry up and put away the ancestor blood dragon. This fellow is the nemesis of all dragons. We can't beat him, so we can only run. Leave first, we'll take the rear. After being discovered, Du Chenkuan did not look at Black Dragon King at all and instead sent an anxious voice transmission to Su Bai. The others also had the same expression. This dragon god of corpses was far beyond their expectations. Although it was still within the eternal grade, it was no longer something that the eternal grade could deal with. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect Du Chenkuan and the rest of you to be here too. How wonderful. We can catch all of you in one fell swoop. Do you think you can escape? Don't even think about it. You'll never know how powerful Black Dragon King is or how powerful the Dragon God of Corpses is. Today, 90,000 of you will die here to witness the birth of the real Dragon God. Wang Minglu opened his hands and revealed an intoxicated expression, as if this dragon god of corpses had been cultivated by him. The chiefs of the other families, as well as Liu Chuan and the other directors of the peak gymnasiums, revealed a hint of disdain and pity. They were all smart people. If they did not have absolute trust in their backers, why would they choose to escape? A newborn calf like Su Bai did not know the immensity of heaven and earth just because he had some ability. He did not understand the terror that he was about to face. At this moment, the Black Dragon King's body had already fused with the Dragon God of Corpses. His consciousness had also fused with it. Looks like you're prepared to resist to the end. Forget it, I'll let you see how powerful the Dragon God of Corpses is. A deep voice came from the 12 dragon heads of the Dragon God of Corpses as invisible nomological fluctuations spread out. A huge spherical understanding spread out. It was actually no smaller than the entire solar system. Countless nomological chains appeared and covered the entire void. An existence at the level of the Dragon God of Corpses could already control the laws in the world for its own use. Standing here, it was the master of all the laws. Immediately after, blood-colored tubes were emitted from the Dragon God of Corpses and wrapped around the ancestor blood dragon in the blink of an eye. The ancestor blood dragon, which had just been extremely powerful, did not even have the chance to resist. All its attacks were useless in front of the Dragon God of Corpses. Be it the dragon curse or anything else, even ordinary physical attacks were useless. This was the suppression the ancestor dragon origin had on other dragons. Even the ancestor blood dragon could not break through it. The ancestor blood dragon's body gradually shriveled. All its essence and origin were being absorbed. The eternal Tao blood, the eternal divine light, and the great Dao tree were all being sucked away bit by bit. As for the dragon god of corpses, it was as if it had eaten tonics. Its body was emitting hot bloodlight, and the chaotic aura in its body was actually unifying and merging. Ha 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 ha. It has been nearly 10,000 years. My dragon god of corpses is finally going to welcome this final evolution. It's finally going to become the true ancestor dragon, the true dragon god. Black Dragon King's excited roar echoed through the void. After experiencing so much, he was finally going to fulfill his final wish. No one knew how much effort and time he had spent on the dragon god of corpses. No one knew how much he had anticipated this day. See, this is the power of the dragon god of corpses. Wang Minglu felt an unprecedented joy when he saw the despair on Du Qianquan and the others' faces. We will follow Black Dragon King and lead mankind to an unprecedented peak. Xiao Tianlong smiled victoriously. Liu Chuan was extremely unhappy as he looked at Su Bai, who did not show any expression. He wanted to see his despair. You might not know this, but we deliberately captured your parents, killed your master, and stole your kraken nest. We did that so that you could turn hatred into motivation and work hard to improve the ancestor blood dragon. Liu Chuan looked at Su Bai and spread his hands. A mocking smile was on his face. How is it? Does it feel good to think that you were invincible a second ago, only to realize that all your hard work has been wasted on someone else? No one knew that they had already come into contact with Black Dragon King when they had rejuvenated. They had also received his financial support and stood with him. Everything that Su Bai had encountered had been deliberately planned by them. Ha 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 ha, he must be scared out of his wits. Phoenix Gymnasium's curator also laughed loudly. They felt extremely happy to see a genius being destroyed like this, especially when they had just been threatened by this genius. Su Bai looked up at Liu Chuan. I originally felt that I could not bear to kill you all, but now, I no longer feel any discomfort in my heart. Isn't it just a dragon god of corpses? You're so happy that it's as if you've seen your own father. I only hope that you can still maintain your current appearance when it falls. Su Bai shook his head and looked at the dragon god of corpses, who was about to devour the ancestor blood dragon completely, and had completed the unification of its aura. It was hard to say who would benefit whom. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. What did you hear? Is this kid scared silly? However, Liu Chuan and the others roared with laughter as if they had heard an unprecedented joke. You stubborn duck. The ancestor blood dragon has been killed, yet you're still shouting here. Liu Chuan glanced at Su Bai. If I were you, I would definitely kneel down and beg for mercy now. You might even be able to keep your life. But don't worry. You definitely won't survive. We will take good care of your blood moon divine skill. Xiao Tianlong smiled too. They were happy to see someone in despair. It was like those who saw someone jump off a building and shouted for them to jump. They wanted to see Su Bai's despair and obtain an unprecedented pleasure from it. However, to their disappointment, Su Bai's expression did not change from beginning to end, nor did he show any despair. Su Bai shook his head and looked at the giant kraken gymnasium's curator, Liu Chuan. Aren't you all looking for the giant kraken in the sea abyss that isn't afraid of the mist of destruction? I'll let you guys have a taste of it today. With Su Bai's words, the nomological contract book that had fused with the book of knowledge flew out. As the contract page flipped, a black shadow appeared in the void. It was a black figure that blotted out the sky. It was more than 10 times larger than the dragon god of corpses, and its size was already comparable to Saturn. It was equivalent to 1,000 blue planets added together. This was naturally the starry omnivore kraken that had been sleeping for a long time. It had recovered after the big orange cat repaired the Sea of Destruction. It had been recuperating in the contract book all this time. Its realm had already reached the peak of the immortal grade. It was only because it had not devoured enough worlds that it could not reach the eternal grade and complete its final ultimate evolution. Sensing the appearance of the starry omnivore kraken, be it the dragon god of corpses or Liu Chuan, all of them were stunned. Such a huge monster was simply too rare, especially the aura on its body. It gave off the feeling of doomsday and destruction. The gigantic black fellow looked beautiful and magnificent in the eyes, but it gave off a terrifying vibe as if it represented the end of a world. Starry, use water splash to seal this dragon god of corpses. Subai looked into starry omnivore Kraken's huge black eyes. Without the ancestor blood dragon, you can only take out an immortal monster. Black Dragon King's voice came from the dragon god of corpses. So what if it's big? Do you really think strength is related to size? Hearing this, the originally panicky Liu Chuan, Wang Minglu, and the others suddenly realized that this big fellow was only at the upper-level immortal grade. It had not even reached the eternal grade. They had been completely frightened by its size and aura earlier. After Black Dragon King pointed it out, he heaved a sigh of relief. I thought you had some trump card. It turns out you're at the end of your rope. An immortal monster can only onum. However, before Wang Minglu could finish speaking, the starry omnivore Kraken let out a deep sound wave. Then, it swung its beautiful and huge tail and immediately activated the most basic water attribute skill, Water Splash. In the next moment, everyone realized that an endless flood was coming from all directions, instantly drowning the entire star field. With a splash, an endless sea fell from the sky. Moreover, Black Dragon King soon realized that this sea was not a different sea at all. It was an ocean formed by endless destructive power. Various terrifying destruction laws filled it, and even the dragon god of corpses' body could not withstand them at all. This is the legendary Sea of Destruction. How can you possibly summon it? Black Dragon King's shocked voice resounded through the world. He had never expected this scene. How could a doomsday monster like the Sea of Destruction be summoned? It was created by chaos to destroy the world. All life could only die before it. If even Black Dragon King was so shocked, there was no need to mention Wang Minglu, Liu Chuan, and the others. Although the Sea of Destruction was not targeting them and had only sealed them up, they could not break this seal even if they exhausted all of their abilities. The Kraken, which looked like it was only at the immortal level, was actually so terrifying. However, what they did not know was that this Sea of Destruction was not summoned by starry omnivore Kraken. It belonged to it and was completely under its control. Under the effect of the endless destructive power of the Sea of Destruction, the aura of the dragon god of corpses began to decline drastically as the flesh and blood on its body were constantly being destroyed. In the blink of an eye, most of the flesh and blood of the dragon god of corpses, which was originally the size of a heavenly king planet, had been worn away. The countless tubes on its body had all disappeared and the flesh and blood on its wings and head had also disappeared without a trace. Only its bones remained, as well as the great Tao tree and the ancestor dragon's origin in its chest. There was also the immortal divine marrow that was constantly shattering and condensing as it consistently resisted destruction. Wang Ming, Liu Chuan, and the others could not help but tremble in fear upon witnessing such a scene. Once the Black Dragon King fell, their fates could be imagined. Subai, do you really think that you can destroy me just by summoning the Sea of Destruction? What you have done to me is equivalent to a cleansing, an absolution. This would allow me to get rid of the dregs so that I can truly have the qualifications to become the dragon god. You're powerless now. Just watch and tremble at the birth of the dragon god. Black Dragon King's unrestrained laughter came from the Sea of Destruction. Subai glanced at the current dragon god of corpses and the big golden-orange cat nibbling on his shoulder. I think it's about time. It's about time. We can begin. The big orange cat nodded as well. The effects of the dragon-splitting fruit that I let Little Blood Dragon eat should about to take effect. It was not as if Little Blood Dragon had done nothing before it was assimilated by the dragon god of corpses. There was a price to pay for fusing with its power. Hassie, you'll be spurned by time and enter eternal stagnation. Time Ghost flew up as a powerful time fluctuation emanated from its body. In an instant, Dragon God of Corpses' time flow was sucked away as it fell into a difficult struggle. Fate makes everything unpredictable. Like a destiny spirit, Purple Jade waved its staff and an unpredictable fate attack entered the body of the Dragon God of Corpses. Purple Jade's attack had fused many fate skills. Together with the dragon-splitting fruit that had already been put to use, the remaining spirits of the dragons that had been devoured by the Dragon God of Corpses had all returned. They used the unwillingness of these dragon remnant spirits to form a special fate seal. This seal immediately stopped the dragon god of corpses' evolution and forced its consciousness to face the counterattack of many remnant spirits. As starry omnivore kraken swung its tail, the endless sea of destruction rapidly contracted into a large water ball that enveloped the dragon god of corpses. Finally, it was swallowed by starry omnivore kraken. From beginning to end, the Black Dragon King was completely sealed before he could even cry out. Su-bai had already calculated all of this when the dragon god of corpses appeared. The ancestor blood dragon naturally could not die. As long as a drop of its blood remained, it could be instantly resurrected. Although a resurrection was not necessary this time, the dragon god of corpses was something valuable to it. It was something that could turn the ancestor blood dragon into an origin dragon god. When the big orange cat saw the dragon god of corpses, it began to shout, saying that this was a great opportunity. Under their cooperation, the dragon god of corpses eventually became Su-bai's possession. With the retreat of the Sea of Destruction, nothing else remained in the entire starfield. Whether it was a star or another planet, they no longer existed. The only people left behind were the people on the Sirius star and those in outer space. They were all in a daze. Roar, roar, roar. What about our Bai and the others? Little Tyrant looked at Liu Chuan and the others. It was finally its turn to show off. It was very excited to do so. Kill them all. Su-bai glanced at Liu Chuan and the others. Their life or death did not matter to him at all. No, Su-bai, we can still be of use to you. It was Liu Chuan who spoke. Du Chenkuan, hurry up and persuade Su-bai. Tell him that we had no other choice. The other curators of the peak gymnasiums hurriedly pleaded with Du Chenkuan. They had never expected death to come so quickly. Some people turned around and fled, prepared to abandon everything just to save their lives. Roar, roar, roar. You still want to escape in front of me, the starry lava eclipse? Little Tyrant took a step forward. A massive fire domain covered the starry sky. For a moment, the entire void became an inferno. As Little Tyrant's figure flashed, these powerful figures from the past had all turned to dust. Su-bai. Sigh. Before Du Chenkuan could beg for mercy, he realized that his former colleagues had all died. He had thought that Su-bai had already revealed all his strength, but he did not expect that this little tyrant was not inferior to Su-bai's other pets at all. The flames did not seem very powerful, but they had the characteristics of nothingness. This domain was like a huge pill furnace that turned Wang Minglu and the others to ashes. Traitors do not deserve pity. The one who spoke was Fang Qingcheng. He shook his head. There will be a second betrayal if there's a first time. Even if they live, they're still a scourge. The others nodded in agreement. They could all tell that Su-bai's strength had far exceeded their imagination. As Liu Chuan and the others died, Su-bai focused his gaze on Chang Tian. Chang Tian, are you waiting for me to invite you out? Soon, 3 people flew out with a group of people. They were the 3 disciples of Su-bai's deceased master, Gao An. They had also brought a group of people over. Tell me, why did you betray master? I'll give you one last chance to speak. Su-bai narrowed his eyes at Chang Tian and the others. No one could understand how he felt when he found out that his master, Gao An, had been killed by his own disciple. Gao An was such a good old man. He was the one who truly treated his disciples as his sons. However, such a person was eventually killed by his own disciple. Su-bai could not accept it. Chang Tian glanced at Su-bai. This little junior brother who had once been insignificant in his eyes, had now become a true towering tree. Even an existence like the dragon god of corpses could not threaten him anymore. He had never thought that one day he would stand before Su-bai in such a lowly manner. There's nothing to say. That old man was just blocking my path. Chang Tian shrugged. You don't have to do anything. I'll kill myself. Suicide. Su-bai showed a hint of mockery. Do you think that you're worthy? All of you are a bunch of animals that betrayed your ancestors. With a thought, he activated the water card skill. An invisible force descended and the group of people turned into powder that floated towards the broken star field. Finally, Su-bai let out a breath and looked at the Sirius star in front of him. He raised his hand and grabbed, pulling the 2 kraken nests over. After doing all this, He turned to look at Du Qianquan. Grandmaster, I'll leave Sirius Star to you all. I've already done what I wanted to do, but you have to be careful of the sinister devils. There are many of those strange mists on Sirius Star. With the power of Purple Jade's fate, no one managed to escape. Each and every one of those that participated in the killing of Gao An and his parents were dead. Okay. Du Qianquan nodded, still in a daze. Apart from the ordinary people, every faction that had organized the defection was arrested. Several peak gymnasiums and families were annihilated with all their assets confiscated. Once all of these were done and over, their former members were assigned to different places to help in resisting the invasion of monsters. Su Bai did not care much about these things. After handing everything to Du Qianquan, he returned to Planet I. What a bountiful harvest. I was only here to take revenge. I didn't expect to come across an existence like the dragon god of corpses. Su Bai couldn't help but comment. The big orange cat responded excitedly. This dragon god of corpses is really terrifying. It's a pity that it still cannot match me, the Lord of Endless Wealth. Initially, you would not have had any hope of prying into the origins for the meantime. But this dragon god of corpses is simply like handing over a pillow to someone who is about to sleep. It's simply an opportunity bestowed upon you by the heavens. After all, this dragon god of corpses had already condensed the ancestor dragon's origins. After destroying Black Dragon King's disgusting consciousness, Little Blood Dragon will fuse with it. At that time, it will be able to transcend the eternal grade and reach the origin grade that only a few existences were able to reach. Purple Jade also exclaimed at the side. Ah, Bai, this dragon god of corpses is more than what meets the eye. It can actually resist the trajectory of fate. Let's go in and take a look. Su Bai released Starry Omnivore Kraken and brought his pets into its stomach. There was a huge space inside Starry Omnivore Kraken, who was an upper-level immortal pet. This space was called the World Destruction Space. Life could not survive in it. It was filled with the power of destruction. The most terrifying thing was the fact that the Sea of Destruction also resided here. It even occupied most of the space inside. It was like the stomach fluids of a human. This destructive power was akin to the stomach fluids of Starry Omnivore Kraken. It helped it turn all the food it ate into the purest primal energy. At the bottom of the endless sea of destruction inside the World Destruction Space, Black Dragon King, who had fused with the dragon god of corpses, was currently struggling wildly as it cursed non-stop. Su Bai, do you think everything will be over after you kill me? No, you can't kill me. I still have the Mother of Despair behind me. Do you know how powerful she is? That is a Genesis-level existence that can create a world and life at will. One of her fingers can crush you to death. As if sensing Su Bai's arrival, Black Dragon King let out an angry roar. Hehehe, do you really think that an existence like that cares about you? Let's say that they do you really think that they can survive until their arrival? With the greatest Lord of Endless Wealth here, you won't even live for more than 30 minutes. The big orange cat glanced at the struggling Black Dragon King in disdain and said proudly, You are the orange cat that is known as the treasure collector? Black Dragon King let out a cry of disbelief when he saw the big orange cat. You actually became Su Bai's follower, no wonder he became powerful so quickly. Black Dragon King could not believe it. How could he not know the existence known as the Collector of Endless Wealth in the Endless Void? The Collector of Endless Wealth was an ancient existence according to the legends. It had witnessed the changes of an epoch, one after another. His subordinate, Amethyst Dragon King, had even entered the Kunlun Mountains to capture it. White Dragon King had also sent people in. But he didn't dare to harbor such thoughts since he knew that the location of the Orange Cat was not a place that they could just casually strut into. Sky Fortune Waterfall was not an ordinary place after all. But he did not expect this legendary existence to choose to follow Su Bai. He could not believe it. No wonder Su Bai could reach this stage in such a short time. It turned out that he had the support of the Lord of Endless Wealth. No wonder the power of the dragon-splitting fruit was hidden in the body of the ancestor blood dragon he had absorbed. Su Bai, don't kill me. I'm willing to join you. I've already become one with the dragon god of corpses. I can sign a contract with you. With the Lord of Endless Wealth, I can't play any tricks. Upon seeing the big orange cat, Black Dragon King suddenly changed his tone. He actually wanted to acknowledge Su-Bai as his master. It was not his fault. With the Lord of Endless Wealth around, all his struggles were unnecessary. Dream on. Why should I accept you? Big orange cat, let's kill him. Su-Bai sneered. He did not have any good impression of Black Dragon King. Of course, Meow Tilda the big orange cat nodded. I've already prepared a treasure. This is the Spirit Dispersion Crystal and the Flawless Water. When used together, it can directly disperse all the consciousness and souls on the Dragon God of Corpses and turn them into the purest nutrients for its nourishment. No, you can't kill me. If you kill me, Mother of Despair will definitely avenge me. Don't think I'm joking. I'm not afraid to tell you that I once had the miracle flame token of the eternally miraculous beauty, the beloved of the four great creation gods. The Dragon God of Corpses was born from my hands using the power of the miracle flame. Later on, I offered the miracle flame to the Mother of Despair. If you kill me, you'll definitely be hunted down by the Mother of Despair. Black Dragon King roared. Purple Jade checked using Eye of Destiny and nodded. Bai, he's not lying. This fellow should have obtained the miracle flame before. That makes sense. The ancestor dragon's origins can't be obtained by any random dragon after all. It makes sense that it was obtained due to the intervention of a miracle. The big orange cat nodded in understanding. What a pity. You actually offered the miracle flame to such a terrifying existence. You truly deserved to die. Su-Bai did not hesitate to inject the Spirit Dispersion Crystal and the Flawless Water into the Dragon God of Corpses' body. When he heard that one of the four great creation tokens, the Miracle Flame, was already in the hands of the Mother of Despair, a Genesis-level existence, his mood instantly turned sour. This fellow really deserved to die. He had actually offered such a priceless item to such a horrible existence. No. You can't kill me. Accompanied by Black Dragon King's desperate roar, the Spirit Dispersion Crystal and the Flawless Water took effect. Every soul and will in the Dragon God of Corpses' body dissipated like smoke, turning into the purest energy that soon fused into it. Originally, this kind of soul and will was very difficult to eliminate, but fortunately, the big orange cat was there. It held the rare Spirit Dispersion Crystal in its hands. The Spirit Dispersion Crystal was born from chaos and rarely appeared in the endless void. However, the big orange cat could acquire it as long as it still did not have an owner. As the Dragon God of Corpses' will dissipated, Starry Omnivore Kraken moved the Sea of Destruction away and stopped destroying the dragon. Su-Bai gave the extracted energy to this big fellow that only had bones left. Now, its bones had already been filled with immortal essence, making it a true immortal divine bone. In the middle of the bone stood a golden great Tao tree. The tree was in the shape of a dragon, and golden immortal light shimmered on its surface. The immortal divine blood was condensed within it, and the most fundamental part of it was the seven-colored tree heart. It was the ancestor dragon's origin, which one could seek but not found. It emitted countless roots that pierced into the body of the Dragon God of Corpses. On a closer look, every root was formed from a different dragon-type origin. Black Dragon King had relied on the miracle flame to gather almost all kinds of dragon origins. With these origins as the foundation, Black Dragon King eventually cultivated this half-completed dragon that had a certain amount of the ancestor dragon's origin infused within it. Unfortunately, when he was trying to trick Su-Bai, he got the short end of the stick instead. In the end, his hard work became someone else's gift. Glancing at the Dragon God of Corpses, Su-Bai summoned little blood from the contract. Go on and fuse with it. I am looking forward to seeing you make a breakthrough into the Origins grade. Su-Bai chuckled. Oh thank you, Bai. Little blood dragon glanced at the Dragon God of Corpses and flew over impatiently. It turned into a ball of bloodlight that inundated the Dragon God of Corpses. It could even accelerate time by millions of times. However, accelerating time at that level would cause the laws to distort. Such an environment was not suitable for comprehending the Great Tao. Between 100,000 and a million times was the best. With the matter of the dragon god of corpses coming to an end, Subai brought his pets out of the belly space of starry omnivore kraken. On the Sirius star, Du Chenkuan and the others had already been dealt with. In the end, Subai used Planet I to bring the entire Sirius star back to Blue Planet. The situation on Blue Planet was not optimistic. The outer space was still filled with all kinds of monsters, forcing humans to defend the planet with all their might. Even the aliens who occupied Blue Planet were forced to resist the invasion of the monsters. Fortunately, the pressure on the humans had already been greatly relieved. Thanks to Subai's appearance, they didn't feel pressured about the sea abyss anymore. With a large number of high-level pet tamers returning to Blue Planet and Subai's 10 upper-level immortal giant krakens following them, dealing with such monsters was as easy as breathing and drinking. As Planet I teleported back to Blue Planet, Subai finally returned to his home, which he had not visited for a long time. At a glance, the originally bustling Blue Planet was no longer what it used to be. Subai couldn't help but feel emotional. Du Chenkuan looked at Subai and said, "Subai, open a dimensional space and release the Sirius star." "All right." Subai nodded and got Planet I to create a dimensional space that was connected to Blue Planet before throwing the Sirius star in. After everything was done, Subai looked at the outer space and turned back. "Grandmaster, you guys handle the matters on Blue Planet first. I'll deal with those monsters in outer space." "Okay, go ahead." Du Chenkuan waved his hand. "By the way, Grandmaster, please take special care of my old friends and classmates." After taking 2 steps, Subai turned around and said, "But don't tell them that you are doing it because of me." "I understand. Don't worry." Du Chenkuan smiled. After relaying everything to him, Subai flew away from Blue Planet and arrived at a hidden place in outer space. With his current mental strength, he could already observe every fight on the battlefield. In addition to borrowing the trajectory of fate from Purple Jade, he quickly found his friends and classmates who had interacted with him before. On a battlefield, Chen Tingting and Jiang Yang fought side by side. By chance, the two of them had already become a couple. Chen Tingting had chosen a special path, and that was to have a single pet. Other than her blade-praying mantis, she had no other pets. Now, she had already nurtured her blade-praying mantis to the sovereign grade. Moreover, the bond between them had reached an unprecedented level. The blade-praying mantis's fighting spirit looked boundless and inexhaustible as it fought side by side with its master. As long as Chen Tingting and its fighting spirit remained, they could ignore all attacks and live forever. The pair of master and pet was a beautiful sight on the battlefield. They unknowingly influenced others as they fought valiantly on the battlefield. Her heroic demeanor gave people courage. Beside her, Jiang Yang walked on a completely different path, an area attack specialist. He had contracted monsters like the Ant Queen and the Queen of Bugs. They could unleash unlimited weapons, and they walked the path of massive area attacks. He had grown up now, and his pets had all reached the sovereign grade. His cooperation with Chen Tingting was even more enviable. One of them was responsible for beheading those powerful leader monsters, while the other was responsible for clearing the miscellaneous soldiers. Subai glanced at the two of them before turning to look elsewhere. He had discovered Yang Ju, Wang and Liu Weiwei. These people had all grown to different degrees on this battlefield. Moreover, what made him happy was that these old friends seemed to have formed a new hunting team in battle. He saw the huge team flag with the words Hidden Dragon written on them. This was the hunting team he had once formed. With the efforts of Yang Ju and the others, this hunting team had already become the highest-ranking 9-star hunting team. Through the observation of fate, Subai discovered that there were many more people in this team. They were all people who had interacted with him before. There was Wang Li, Wang Dao, Zhao Li, Wan Shurai, Li Xing, and others. Many of them were members of the Can Youth team. Subai was very happy to see these old friends on the battlefield and to discover that they had all grown up. However, if they were alive, there would naturally be people who had passed away. Through his observations of fate, Subai discovered that the trajectories of many people had already turned grey and were in a state of dislocation. One of them was Li Hai, Li Xing's elder sister. She had once admired him. There was also their high school form teacher, Wang Wenyi, his 9th senior brother Zhu Xinghe, who loved flying on his sword and wanted to be a swordsman. There were also many people who had interacted with them before. Their fates had already dissipated and they had left this world forever. After taking a deep breath, Subai flew into outer space with his pets. The best way to protect these friends was to kill these monsters. I didn't expect this place to have so many space tunnels. At the edge of the solar system, Purple Jade looked at the space tunnels that were as big as Blue Planet and sighed. It said that this is only the early stage of the two void fusions. The number of monsters now is not even 1/1,000,000th of the total number. Subai shook her head and released Starry Omnivore Kraken. Coincidentally, you're stuck at the final stage and cannot make a breakthrough. Let's see what will happen if you devour and destroy these monster worlds until you're filled up. Onum. Starry Omnivore Kraken let out a rumbling sound. When it opened its mouth, endless light and laws appeared at the same time. Wherever it went, every monster and even matter itself was devoured. The endless mist of destruction constantly exuded from its body. Planet I was attached to Starry Omnivore Kraken through special technological methods. Subai paid attention to the state of Starry Omnivore Kraken while talking with the big orange cat, Purple Jade, and the other pets about their breakthrough into the eternal grade. Actually, Purple Jade and the others were already in a state where they could make a breakthrough at any time. It was just that they had not found a suitable opportunity just yet. They were talking about the opportune moment for a breakthrough. The main point of their discussion was going back to the long river of time to take a look. The battle there must be intense. Actually, there was a way to summon the phantom image of the river. That was to let Purple Jade and the others make their breakthroughs together. However, Subai was worried that their time fishies would be attacked by those ancient monsters in the river of time. Bai, I think we can make a breakthrough together. It's just a time monster. If we're afraid of that, how can we go even further beyond this path? Purple Jade commented. Mewling Fox stood up as well. Bai, we can already take care of things by ourselves. You don't have to worry. Roar, roar, roar. Yes, we can do it. We're not afraid of any time monster or whatnot. We'll be invincible if we work together. Little Tyrant patted its chest. Since his pets were so insistent, Subai didn't say anything else. He could only nod. All right, I'll prepare some medicine for y'all. When Starry Omnivore Kraken makes a breakthrough, y'all can break through the eternal grade together. All of a sudden, a special apocalyptic aura suddenly erupted from its body. The jet-black phantom of a great Tao Master appeared. From it, an immortal divine light was born. As more and more immortal divine lights were born, Starry Omnivore Kraken completely turned into an eternal existence. The power in its body had also become a special destructive origin power. Immediately afterwards, the power of time appeared out of thin air. Following that, a giant kraken swam out. Facing this giant kraken, the evolved Starry Omnivore Kraken opened its mouth and sucked it in. Even the power of time was swallowed into its stomach. The scene stunned Subai and his other pets. They had just been discussing Starry Omnivore Kraken's breakthrough and how to lure out the long river of time with the help of the former. But in the end, this fellow's breakthrough and evolution had actually reached such an unprecedented level. What's even more shocking was that the entire breakthrough lasted less than a minute. Subai thought for a moment before he spread his hands and shrugged. To be honest, I think this is normal for Starry Omnivore Kraken. It should have been able to make this breakthrough long ago. Sadly, there weren't enough destruction laws for it to use as a catalyst, so its breakthrough was understandably delayed. Now that there are enough destruction laws around, it makes more sense that its breakthrough didn't last for too long. Despite saying these, Subai still didn't expect that Starry Omnivore Kraken's breakthrough would be so fast. Hassie, Bai, I can't feel the long river of time anymore. Time Ghost flew to Subai's side in surprise. I can't sense the aura of the long river of time anymore after Starry's breakthrough. It's like the entire river has been isolated and sealed off. Yeah. I also can't feel it anymore. Subai nodded. His soul, which had already been transformed into the soul of time, could not sense any traces of the long river of time's aura. The big orange cat took out a crystal ball and tested it before shaking its head. Meow. It looks like the river has gone through an unprecedented change. Subai thought about it for a moment before he said, "Prepare yourselves. Purple Jade, all of you should try to make a breakthrough too. Tell me if you really can't sense it anymore." It seemed like this was the only way. The big orange cat also nodded. "Great suggestion, meow. With my treasures, Purple Jade and the others will have no problem breaking through." The treasures once owned by the big orange cat were all rare and priceless treasures throughout the entire endless void. It was naturally not a problem for them to use those treasures to ensure a successful breakthrough. Soon, the catalyst potion that would serve as the aid for their breakthroughs was made. After its evolution, Starry Omnivore Kraken kept an eye out on the void while Purple Jade, Mewling Fox, Little Tyrant, Planet Eye, and Time Ghost made their breakthroughs with all their might. As the catalyst potion entered their stomachs, myriad laws appeared. Resplendent lights and images filled the void as the phantom of a special great Tao tree appeared in the midst. Immortal divine light condensed on it, the origin power of the great Tao also coalesced, as yet again another immortal body was born. As their breakthroughs reached near completion, the time fishes were necessary for them to complete their breakthroughs. However, just as they completed their breakthroughs, their time fishes flew into the air as if they were no longer bound by the long river of time. The long river of time seemed to have disappeared as well. It did not make an appearance from the beginning till the end of their breakthroughs. The big orange cat noticed this abnormality as it immediately hurled a transparent crystal ball into the void. This is the last and only remaining origin-chasing magic ball in the endless void. I don't believe that we still can't force the long river of time to manifest with it. The big orange cat stared at the origin-chasing magic ball. As the magic ball erupted with countless bolts of lightning, a space-time vortex that was like a human eye gradually opened. The long river of time appeared in its wake. There was a vast expanse of grey mist and darkness inside. The endless river had disappeared. The water of time had dried up. The time fishes had disappeared. Even the sinister devils and the ancient time monsters that resided in the long river of time had vanished. The doomsday monsters sent by the will of chaos were also nowhere to be found. This is the long river of time. It has been destroyed. Subai was stunned. Such a scene was unprecedented for Subai, especially when it was about the long river of time. Time was one of the most fundamental laws. The long river of time represented time and it was an eternal existence. Even if the endless void was destroyed, it would still flow endlessly and would never cease to exist. But the fact was that the long river of time was destroyed for some reason. How could this happen? No. When Purple Jade and the others broke through, they could still sense their own time fishes. This means that the river is still hanging on. But something incredible must have happened and it caused the river to lose its grip on all life forms. The big orange cat knew that Subai had many questions in his mind. Shaking its head, it looked at the upper reaches of the long river of time. The scene there was filled with nothing but darkness. The view was vague and unclear. However, there were clear traces of a powerful force, strong enough to annihilate doomsday monsters. Subai naturally noticed this as well, but the residual power was far too terrifying for him to comprehend. It was even more terrifying than when the dragon god of corpses made its breakthrough. The residual force made it obvious that it came from an even higher level lifeform born from the union of many major Tao laws. It was a power that belonged to the origin, maybe even Genesis grade, or perhaps even higher. Such strength was not something he could understand at the moment. The universe was too big. There was simply no end to it. However, this was also a good opportunity. During this period of time, the long river of time's restrictions on the time fishes had become meager and weak. Breaking through to the eternal grade had become easier. Thus, the seniors on Blue Planet would find this discovery beneficial for them in their efforts to reach the mythical level. Subai had no other choice but to be optimistic. It's just a hypothesis for now, but we can go and take a look at the situation up close. We can then see what kind of changes are happening to the river. The big orange cat looked at the upper reaches of the long river of time with a solemn gaze. It had existed for many years, but this was the first time it had seen the long river of time become like this. The devil tribe's existence itself was truly terrifying. But Subai shook his head. Let's not do that. We can't explore the long river of time with our current strength. It's useless to keep staring at it here. Let's go. The big orange cat thought about it for a moment before it relented. All right, but before we leave, we can try to cut off a branch of the river. This will make it easier for us to observe it in the future. The long river of time seemed like an endless river, but it actually had countless tributaries. Every world actually had its own tributary of time. Can you do it? Subai turned his head and asked. Of course, I wouldn't dare to suggest it if it weren't for you and Time Ghost. Thankfully, both you and Time Ghost have inherited the vestiges of the Time Clan's karmic luck. It's definitely possible to cut off a small portion of the tributary. We won't completely cut off its connection with the long river of time after all. Thus, it's a very simple procedure. The big orange cat continued. Let's intercept the time branch on Planet I. Planet I is considered an independent world, so it has its own time branch. Under the guidance of the big orange cat, Time Ghost learned a skill that could condense time. As it executed the skill, a small stream of time appeared in the void. The stream was the time branch of Planet I. Subai then used his spiritual power to condense a special spiritual cage. Under the effect of his soul of time, this time tributary was successfully isolated and sealed. All right, now we can observe the changes in the river through this small time tributary. It's a good thing that this is a time tributary on Planet I. If anything happened to the mainstream of time, we can immediately cut off the connection between the tributary and the mainstream. This would allow it to become independent without being affected by the changes on the mainstream. The big orange cat looked at the time tributary on Planet I before it nodded in satisfaction. After this was done, Subai looked at the endless monster world in front of him and shook his head. Let's go back. After retracting the Kraken into his contract book, he directly teleported to where Blue Planet was located in the void. Where's Blue Planet? When Planet I returned to where Blue Planet was located, Subai suddenly realized that Blue Planet had disappeared. All the pets were stunned. How could such a big planet disappear just like that? However, a special dragon-shaped beacon quickly flew out from where Blue Planet was. Subai used his mental power to receive a message. An illusory divine dragon phantom appeared in his sea of spirit. My appearance means that the token of the Lord of Infinite Matter and the eternally miraculous beauty has fallen into the hands of others. It means that our first plan has failed. According to our agreement, the force I left on Blue Planet would cut off every space tunnel between the planet and all the worlds outside before the former would be transported to an unknown, special place. As the reincarnation of the Recorder of all things, you should understand the seriousness of this matter. We have already fallen into a deep sleep that we cannot wake up from. Only you have the chance to save us. We'll take back the tokens and use the origin we left behind to annex the entire monster void. We'll rely on you to build a brand new great world. If we fail, Blue Planet can only hide in that unknown special place forever and wait for the right time. As the message was delivered, the dragon-shaped phantom vanished. Subai looked at Blue Planet in silence. The dragon-shaped phantom from earlier was naturally from one of the four great creation gods, the infinite shuttle dragon. The four great creation gods had ties to the monster void. For some reason, they had stored their four fundamental origins on Blue Planet. The origins of these four great creation gods were powerful to the point that they could develop into their very own endless void. After storing the four origins, the four existences fell into an eternal slumber before they succumbed to chaos. Only the mermaid Recorder of all things had abandoned its soul and was unwilling to fall into eternal slumber. His soul came from the Recorder of all things, but he did not have any of its memories. He was a brand new person, a brand new existence, Subai. The mermaid was a woman and he had reincarnated into a man. Those things were all in the past. The past had too many secrets for him to get involved with. Back in the ruins of chaos, he chose the Book of Knowledge. Despite that, he deliberately kept the seal in the Book of Knowledge. He did not want to investigate the secrets left behind by the Recorder of all things. First, it was because he felt that he was not strong enough and was afraid that he would no longer be himself if the seal was broken. He did not want to become an existence similar to the mermaid's consciousness and personality. At the very least, he wanted to wait until he was strong enough to break the seal. However, he did not expect that the infinite shuttle dragon still existed on Blue Planet. Is there a way for us to sense Blue Planet's location? Subai looked at his pets. I can vaguely sense something, but I can't figure it out exactly. Purple Jade shook its head. Me too. I can still sense the planet, but it's too far away. I can't pinpoint its location. Mewling Fox shook its head. I have a way to find Blue Planet. The big orange cat spoke up. But it immediately shook its head and added, but I can't tell you. I can't tell you because I know that you will be restrained by Blue Planet. We are only at the edge of the endless void. We should explore the larger worlds in the center of this endless void so we can continuously improve ourselves. If you're not strong enough, you won't be able to protect everything that you want to protect even if you returned to Blue Planet. This is all for the best. The big orange cat looked up at Subai and solemnly stated, Blue Planet is temporarily safe, and we can start exploring the endless void. When you are already a Genesis Pet Tamer or an even higher existence, you can then stay on Blue Planet without fear of other existences coming at you. Subai was silent for a moment. The big orange cat was right, but a farewell that he couldn't even say goodbye was something that he didn't expect. Sighing, Subai nodded. You're right. In that case, let's explore the endless void. He looked at the endless void around him. The voyage begins. Target, the endless void's core. Space dimension is expansion is in progress. In the void, planet I headed toward unknown worlds. Subai and his pets temporarily set aside the bitter aftertaste of their sudden departure and looked forward to a new adventure. The end. The end.